Done! It's a crazy time, I just crazy time, crazy rhyme. It's getting crazy. It's getting Bugler out of wheel. When I'm crazy, cause you make me crazy, daisy, tell me crazy, position I run, she tell me crazy, me no lazy. Crazy girl, show me crazy, love it, don't amaze me, cause a crazy time, them do some crazy things, they drive me crazy. Crazy fast, ask me when we're truly crazy, cause the crazy things that go on the road, the world is getting crazy. Tracy tell her friend, say that she a go drive me crazy, but a crazy probably a go make she push it crazy, baby, oh me nah go vote you man, they must be crazy, cause the same one way you vote for them, say man a drive me crazy. I'm not say, how they drive the economy crazy, make the farmer them give up and all the cow them getting crazy. Draw me out, fire crazy shot and make it crazy, me know a crazy shot and dump on them like crazy, my crazy. No, them a bad man, them a fool, them a baby, but I'm ready. They want the jungle matching them a crazy, yo. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. Crazy girl a swallow crazy coffee, crazy money want to be man, but she should have taken for a funny. Crazy time me see some crazy sign, little crazy rhyme, crazy tune me build with crazy line. Yo, crazy body find long in a hole, crazy killer hole, crazy body find long in a gully. Yo, George Bush him is a crazy man with some crazy plan, bar running pants a dance with the crazy man. Hold the face, tongue in a Iraq and down a Amsterdam. Hold the tape, who take off the bracelet of Natasha and no retreat, no surrender, you must be crazy damn. Me not gonna leave Jamaica Island with a Netherlands. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting alright. Crazy what I don't know. Get a youth to make some crazy don't know. One get him up but them don't know how. Like you be really go now. Fire me arrow then me change the flow now. From the amateur to the pro now. One mind a show for who know. Q45 go change the Q now. Make up your mind, pass it up to dig it to them like you know. The fast for them I thought them have a clue now. They hear the pass and gone this how they do now. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting when I'm crazy talk, you make it crazy, lady. Lady tell me crazy, position I run, she tell me crazy, me no lazy. Crazy girl I show me crazy, love it don't amaze me, cause a crazy try to do some crazy things to drive me crazy. Tracy tell her friend say that she a go drive me crazy, but a crazy from me I go make she push it crazy, baby. Me nah go vote you man, they must be crazy. The same one where you vote for them, say man that drive me crazy. Just up say, how they drive the economy crazy, make the farmer them give up and all the cow them getting crazy. Draw me out, fire crazy shot and make it crazy. Me know a crazy shot and dump on them like crazy, my crazy. No, them are the bad man, them a fool, them a baby, all of them. Even the jungle matching them a crazy. Crazy girl a swallow crazy coffee, crazy money want to be mad, but she should have never be a funny now. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting, your word is, it's getting
that we ain't Knight Riders. We ain't Knight Riders.
Welcome to the Knight Riders Squadcast live stream. You are now rolling with the Knight Riders.
We are in the building. Salute to Commando Spawn in the building. Salute to everybody else that's going to fall into the building. Oh, yeah. Once again, it's on, and we are here. I'd like to thank you all for joining us to another exciting episode of the Knight Riders Squadcast. And had a little bit of a technical difficulty, a little bit. Those of you who got in the building early, you may have noticed we normally like to start on the dot. You know, we're kind of punctual around these parts. But I had a couple of issues at to reset the system. So we started a little later, but we're in here now. And salute once again to everybody here, everybody who's going to fall in. And yeah, we're going to get right into it because it's one of those nights again, or, you know, night where you are. Where I am, it's still, you know, relatively early in the day. But we're going to get right into this because we got a lot of good information to bring out. And I got, you know, these days I've been working on some other projects, so my time is being very much divided. So we're going to still provide you guys with a nice, informative, and quality broadcast as per usual. And by the way, I've noticed a lot of, you know, people starting to use that terminology, and that's cool. Shout out to them. You know, we bring in a lot of new different sayings, even if it's not new. You know, we use it and flip it a certain way, and, you know, people like to use it as per usual. Once again, and I also noticed that people are starting to use the term cosplaying within this type of venue, and that's good. You know, we like to, you know, apply new terms or terms that already pre-existed, and we just like to give it a whole new appropriation with regard to describing any particular or given situation. So we are going to hit this particular topic tonight hard and heavy. As you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, we're going to be addressing this particular issue of black men, quote, hating or at the very least not liking 4C hair. And this is something I've heard floating around for quite some time. I have actually wanted to touch on this subject sooner, but of course, there were other things that took priority. I have heard of various YouTubers, mostly of the black female persuasion, who tend to like to project their own inherent dislike or distaste for 4C hair, and they like to project it onto black men. Shout out to Israel Young Lion, who said that everything that they say is basically a projection, and I couldn't agree more. And as I said, there have been numerous people, particularly women, who have come with this particular trope. And I just happened to notice this relatively new YouTuber. I'm not too familiar with her, how long she's been on YouTube, but she popped up in the feed on this subject. I think because we covered her before, and I don't have anything against her. For all intents and purposes, she seems like a splendid young lady. I don't know. I mean, I haven't followed a lot of what she said, but with that dust up between this exotical chick and the Paris Milan, and we did that kind of breakdown of that and all these other women that were getting involved, and she happened to be one of them. So I guess when we pulled up that video, her other videos of hers pops up, as per usual, as the algorithm throws you these particular videos. And the one that we're going to be dissecting tonight, among others, that came from this particular young lady, was one that she was questioning the authenticity of whether or not black men actually do like black women wearing 4C hair. And she was essentially calling cap. And again, this is not to pick on her in particular, because we were going to address this before, but she just happens to be the case study that we're going to use. And we are going to be using other people's work as well, as far as addressing some of the other statements that were made in terms of whether or not black men actually do like 4C hair. Because, they've heard many of us say that we do prefer natural hair, and we are tired of all these freaking weaves and wigs and so forth. So what they like to do is, when they hear guys say that, they like to question it. When the funny thing about it is, I would surmise that black men are the only ones within the black race that truly like 4C hair, because we even wear it on our freaking face in the form of our beards. Many of us have beards, such as myself, and I've been growing it out. And our beards are 4C. You don't see men going around putting chemicals and straightenings and relaxers in our freaking beards. I touch my beard every day, and I don't mind feeling that nice, rough 4C beard. In fact, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, it's actually a very misrepresented thing to say that 4C hair always has to be, quote, nappy or hard, when it comes down to it, unkempt hair is going to look rough no matter who it's on, whether it's an Asian person, white person, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. In fact, have you ever seen a white or Asian person with very unkept hair, like such as them being homeless or something like that? That looks horrible. And I've traveled the world. I've been in all these different countries, when you don't get to see all the, the makeup and bright lights. And, I've seen people in their actual worst state in terms of just traveling and looking at people on the street, whether it's Asians or Hispanics or what have you. And their hair gets very matted, and it looks like somebody poured hot oil on a dog or something. It's, it's really prickly, and, sometimes their hair clumps together and it looks very bad. But they're never associated with that worst state of their hair. But somehow 4C hair, the default setting always seems to be nappy, right? When all you have to do is take care of your hair, put the better, eat a better diet, and then make sure that you're using the proper conditioners, you're brushing, combing your hair. It doesn't have to be hard and brittle. In fact, 4C hair can be pretty soft, if you are taking care of it. So I just find it amazing that you have all these people who are saying all this ridiculous stuff about hair, particularly 4C hair. And it just doesn't make sense when you really look at the bottom line when it comes to how it needs to be kept. And if you're keeping it the right way, your hair is going to be in good shape. In fact, what you'll find is that a lot of people just have these stereotypes, particularly black women. And when they start talking about the hair, and particularly the 4C hair, then it's always put in this very negative light. And we're gonna, deal with that tonight. Let me make sure I got everything set up here. I'm gonna open up another tab here. Give me one moment, guys, because I think we're I don't know if you I saw a few chats come in, but now I don't see them. Let me go down and see where those chats. Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah, now I see you guys. I don't know what happened. Shadow Zulu in the building. Yeah, I wasn't ignoring you guys. It's just something changed, and I didn't see you guys' chats. But Shadow Zulu in the building. He said, Shadow Man in the house. Salute, brother. Salute to you too, bro. D in the building. Salute. More lies. Exactly. He says exactly because he's been amening my points. I didn't see all these exactly's that D left. But yeah, he feels what I'm saying. He knows what it is. And Shadow Zulu said, I only like natural hair on black women. I despise those fake ass hair, especially those weird blonde, red, blue, purple wigs. Yeah, exactly. And Shadow Zulu, I'm glad you said that because what they say when you say you quote like natural hair, they got a rebuttal for that. You know what they say, and we're gonna get into it. They say, oh well, when they say they like natural hair, they only mean a certain type of natural hair, such as 3C and all these other. I don't know all the different textures or whatever, but I guess the 3C is supposed to be the more looser curls, like the kind of bees, on those mixed chicks or the exoticals. So they'll claim that when you say that you only like natural hair, that you're only referring to a certain texture. So we're going to get into that. We're going to break all that down. But Shadow Zulu, what do you say to that? If they tell you, well, yeah, you claim you like natural hair, but that's only a certain texture. You don't really like actual 4C hair. So what would you say to that, Shadow? And anybody else in the chat can answer. D once again, indeed. But yeah, we're gonna address all that. So I'm just letting you guys know those are some of the talking points that we're gonna address tonight in terms of why this is that particular stereotype. And once again, this is all projection. And we're gonna prove it. Because like I said, the empirical data and the obvious things that are happening is that black men are the main ones who still rocking 4C hair. In fact, if it wasn't for black men wearing our natural hair, wearing our beards, other races of people would think black people's hair is supposed to be straight, because every time they see a black woman, 90% of them are wearing somebody else's wig or somebody else's hair. So they would actually believe that black people of the Negroid race had straight hair, if you left it up to black women. I guess that's part of what they, would have wanted to do, They would have wanted people to have that impression, but we're here to dispel that. Indeed says, if I was in charge of a country, I wouldn't even allow it to be bought or sold. Yeah. I thought I heard something like that in one of those African countries. I don't know if it was Tanzania, I don't know, maybe it was the lightning creams or something like that. Something that was an altering substance. It may have been, like I said, the creams. It could have been some type of edict or law that I heard where they were talking about something like that. Don't quote me on it, but I did, as you said that, D, it kind of reminded me of something that I thought I heard along those lines. But again, I don't know how true it is. But yeah, but anyway, guys, we're going to get into this. We're going to kind of lead up to the main course in terms of dissecting what this young lady had to say, because, she made a few points that I think needs to be addressed. And like I said, once again, we're not picking on this particular young lady, but she did kind of package a lot of the tropes and talking points pretty nicely that I've heard around these streets that, again, I was going to address. So I just decided to make her the case study. But there's also other people that we're going to be addressing as well. So let's get into it. So the first video that we're going to get into is this other young lady, because remember, I was the one that shed light on this whole issue between these unambiguous black women and the exoticals, right? So you've had a bunch of these different channels popping up like dandelions on both sides, whether they be the quote exoticals or whether they be the unambiguous black women. And one of those unambiguous black channels is called Cocoa Team or something. You know, a lot of those have cocoa or chocolate or something like that in them. But this particular person, she made a video talking about, and I guess the title was "Men Only Prefer a Type of Natural Hair," to Shadow Zulu's comment. But I'm going to dissect this video, and we're going to definitely see if there's any valid points with regard to what this woman's saying. So let's get it.
Interesting clip from a podcast named Pressed.
Oh, and by the way, Shadow Zulu says, the women I know would defend me immediately against their attacks because all black women I know I only like natural hair. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess the specific question, Shadow, was if you only like a certain texture of natural hair, because that's their counter to that. See, what they will say is, well, yeah, when you say you quote like natural hair, that means you only like, you know, those loose curls, the kind that the mixed chicks have. That's what their argument is. So anytime, I guess you have to be specific, right? And again, a lot of these women, the texture of their hair and all of that is the least of their concerns. It should be, because most of you guys have already kind of moved on from these Western women to begin with. So this is just more or less a setting the record straight type endeavor in conversation that we're having tonight, because I don't like being misrepresented, because you have so many women out here who have convinced themselves that we don't like natural hair women, whether, you know, we're dealing with American women or foreign women. In fact, I prefer to deal with the foreign women, you know, of the Negroid background who like to wear their natural hair because it's more natural. They do a better job of keeping their hair up. You know, a lot of them will have a nice head of hair. And I've displayed those type of women on this channel. In fact, you have one in my intro. But the bottom line is they are deflecting and projecting their own internalized self-hatred onto you, because it's very, or it should be very clear that if anybody has more hatred for their 4C hair, it's them, because they've created multi-billion-dollar industries to hide it. We have not. During the time of the 80s, when black men were walking around with jerry curls and so forth, even then, you still had a significant amount of guys who were still wearing their own natural hair. People forget about that. It wasn't like everybody was wearing jerry curl. Some of us was, and some of us would vacillate between wearing a jerry curl and then some natural hair as well. But once it gained, you know, once that went out of style and we started wearing all these other types of styles, we never went back, and we always have been rocking our natural hair ever since. In terms of, you know, when it comes to them, though, it was always them. Once they discovered those weaves and wigs, that's all they've been doing for the most part. But we're going to start breaking down some of these talking points. But yeah, let's get into this video. Oh yeah, Shadow says, I would even FaceTime them live and have them speak to them. Those women response would be, Shadow Zulu only likes natural hair women. Yeah. So I agree with you, Shadow. I believe you. But like I said, to me, you know, I prefer natural hair. I don't mind 4C or whatever, because obviously if your preference is unambiguous women, then more than likely they're going to have 4C hair, but it has to be well kept. See, what they like to do is put the default setting on natural hair just to be nappy and knotty and peasy or whatever, they want to think that somehow 4C hair has to be like that, when all you have to do is take care of your hair, put the right conditioners and moisturizers in it, and 4C hair is beautiful, right? And they also like to, even when you guys say that you only like, a certain phenotype of a black woman, like even if you say you prefer darker skinned women or whatever, then what they like to do is call cap on that and act like you're just lying, because what they want to do is take a woman that looks like Gabby Sidibe and make her the standard, some obese woman that just happens to be dark skinned, and they'll compare her to Halle Berry or somebody. And most men, except maybe D, shout out to D, because he no matter what, he don't like mixed chicks, so that's on him. But some of us are more, kind of like, hey, we may have a preference, but we'll still deal with different types of women. Like I said, I've dealt with exoticals too. Although my preference is unambiguous black women, when all things being equal, because if you compare, because I'm still a man and I still like beautiful women. So if you put Gabby Sidibe next to an attractive exotical, personally I may choose the exotical, right? But that's not to say if you make everything equal and you get two in shape, very good attitude, all things being equal, I'm going to choose the unambiguous black woman because that's my preference. It's not to say that I don't find other types of women attractive, but I do have a preference. See, that's the little caveat and the nuance that they don't like to bring to these types of discussions. Yeah, and D says it's lazy, honestly, yeah, exactly. A lot of them don't want to do their own hair because it's too much work, but they'll rather spend billions of dollars a year collectively to make somebody else rich, not to wear their own hair. And Xiaozu said, nope, I like all kinds of natural hair on a woman, from 3A, 3B, 3C. Yeah, I don't even know all of the different types or what they look like. I guess 3C is those looser curls. So for me, I'm kind of like that too, as long as it's her hair. I don't necessarily like straight hair because that's just not my thing. So I do like a curl in it, whether it's the real tight curls or some of the loose curls. I could, I'm down with that too. But from their standpoint, they'll believe that you only like the more looser curls, and that's what I've heard them say. And again, we're going to get into that a little bit later. And the Shadow says, I'm not feeling 1 or 2A or 2C hair. 2C maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's more what, straight type hair, Shadow Zulu? You seem to be the resident expert on these different textures. So you have to tell me. I think that may sound like a more straighter hair, right? But anyway, let's get into this video from Coco Club. I called her Coco Team, but it's actually the Coco Club. But we're going to break down some of what she's saying and, and dissect some of these talking points. But let's get it.
And there were two black women named Mariam Musa and Holani talking about natural hair and beauty standards surrounding black women. And I wanted to talk about it because they raised some interesting points that I think are worth discussing. So I'll show you this clip and then I will go on to talk about my commentary.
This girl that made a TikTok and she was basically saying, at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your preference. You can spend it on what you want, how you want to look. But has the standard become a bit too unrealistic? So standard being lashes, weave, all this and that. It's for me, because I'm someone, I love that. I can't like that. But I also know how being into stuff as that has actually played on my self-confidence and also played on my own insecurities, and also that there's this standard that I know that does well.
Yeah.
And if you look at these women, to be honest, when they wear their hair straight, like, it really doesn't frame their face well. And we're going to show you, because we got some nice looking black women wearing natural hair the way it's supposed to grow out of their freaking head. And it just frames their faces better. And even, I mean, some of them, believe it or not, they look worse with the straight hair. And they don't believe it, though, because they've been so Eurocentricized with regard to their standards that they think that no matter what, if it's a adjacent or Euro-esque type standard, then somehow they're just going to automatically look better. That's why you have these darker skinned women wearing makeup shades 5 times brighter than their actual skin tone. And I understand there's some variations in people's skin tone based on lighting, because even myself, I'm technically dark brown, but depending on the lighting, I can appear either lighter or darker. So I know lighting plays a part, but you'll see these women that will be like her complexion one day, and then they look like Beyonce's complexion the next. And it's like, look, you need to just stick within the framework of what you naturally are. And a lot of them get carried away, and they think that just because, it looks like it should belong on a European, that it makes them look better, and it actually doesn't. But let's go.
Let's be real. Like, if you look a certain way, your hair's on a certain way, you have that look, you attract what the mainstream society accepts. I think the men have made a standard of beauty. Like, we just followed it. Like,
or do you think so? Which one? The host? You think she had surgery? Yeah, you might be right.
Absolutely. If boys were loving the afro, the short hair, do you not think everyone would?
But to be honest, bro, a lot of these women, that be makeup though, because even like when you see how their noses are shaped and all of that, a lot of times they be doing wonders with that makeup, as we call it over here. It's the special effects, or them wearing their disguises. That makeup is, the way they do those contours, or I don't know. I mean, if you ever look at some of those makeup tutorials, you'll be shocked at how these women can literally create a whole nother face. I mean, it's amazing. It really is magic, right? In fact, I was thinking about doing a broadcast where we're just kind of showing before and afters before they put on this disguise, essentially, and how they actually look before and after. So we might even do that. But let's get it.
Yeah, absolutely. But the reality is, guys will be like, "Oh, I love natural hair." Da, da, da. I'm just like, no, you love a type of natural hair.
Let's be real.
You don't like the 4C. No. You like the 3 Exotica.
See, look, you hear that right now. You hear it right out of the horse's mouth. They will say that time and time again. They just convince themselves that that's all you like, as if as a man you don't have the range to like multiple things. Like, 2 things can't be true at once, right? Just because I like chocolate ice cream don't mean I don't like strawberry or something like that, right? Just because I might deal with a woman who has loosely curled, maybe 3C hair, that doesn't freaking mean that I'm not going to deal with a woman that has 4C hair. See, what they do is put too much emphasis on hair. They make it seem as though we're like them. And to show you how ridiculous this is, there was never a point in history that black men were not wanting to get with black women. You could go to the freaking Serengeti back during the days of when people were walking around in Africa. There were no weaves. There were no chemical relaxers. Men were still getting with black women, right? Black men were still getting with black women. Look at our grandparents or great-grandparents' generation. My paternal grandmother never wore, that I saw, any type of wig or weave. But my grandfather was with her doggone near 60 years. So it's funny how these women like to project all of this onto you as if it's just impossible for black men to be attracted to the hair that the creator gave them that grows out of their freaking scalp. And somehow we were never attracted to them until they discovered a freaking wig or a weave or a chemical relaxer. And they need to ask themselves, okay, what has happened in the black culture that has facilitated this shift? Because remember, the further you go back in history, and we're going to deal with this a little bit later, it wasn't until Madam C.J. Walker, who was the first millionaire. I mean, she became a millionaire selling self-hate to black women. Now, I'm not one to hate, I appreciate her hustle, but let's be real. It was that and things like that that created this mentality that these women have, where they have to straighten and do all these chemical processes to their hair. But prior to that, there was never a shortage of black men getting with them. You understand? They make it seem like it wasn't until Madam C.J. Walker that a black man would even want to touch a black woman. You see how ridiculous this is? See, when they say stuff like this, that's what they're insinuating. Like, it's just impossible for us to be attracted to something other than a freaking wig or a weave or something that's other than 4C hair. It's crazy. Well, let's get it.
Like
real,
that.
yeah.
That's what you like.
You like that.
Don't.
So this was the clip that I found. So although this is a 1-minute clip, there are a lot of complexities involved.
I don't trust them. Ambiguous mutants. Commando Spy, I didn't know you were like that. I expect that out of D. I didn't know you were one of those as well, but shout out to you. Well, y'all be killing me.
But I want to talk about the main points discussed. I do want to mention that the comments that this clip received were pretty interesting. And I saw that a lot of them were from women talking about how these women on the podcast have a very male-centered view, which is true, but aren't most women, if not all women, male-centered too?
And that's another thing. See, that's, one thing that you'll see across the board, just like when we made that classic video, the Secret War Part 2, where we showed that no matter how much of a friction or disagreements that they have on both sides between these quote unambiguous black women and these quote exoticals, the one thing that they have in common is that they're claiming to quote decenter men, which is on the face of it ridiculous, because every crumb of their daily bread and everything that they attribute to any type of prosperity or anything that's desirable, that's tangible, comes from the male gaze, comes from men being interested in them. So they're trying to demonize it, largely because a lot of them don't get it, at least not to the degree that they would want it. So just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we need to decenter them. Well, maybe the men have decentered themselves from you. You ever thought about that? Maybe the man has grabbed his passport, or he just decided he's in monk mode or whatever, and he just don't want to deal with you. So they can't wrap their heads around that. So they just take it upon themselves to want to check themselves out of the situation. Case in point, you remember on that balloon show, and we haven't did a review on it in a while, and we were kind of one of the first ones over here to to start dealing with that. I see a lot of other people reviewing that balloon show, but on some of those shows you'll notice that those women will pop their balloon before the guy, because once they sense that the guy is not attracted to them. That's a funny thing that women do, and I'm sure you guys have had that happen to you, because I've had it happen to me, where if a woman senses that you're not head over heels for her, then she'll sabotage whatever she thinks could have happened. And the balloon show is a clear example of that, where you'll see these women who clearly like the guy, but they got the sense that he didn't really like them all that great, so they'll pop the balloon first. And to me, this whole decenter men mumbo jumbo is a classic example of that, because again, what sense would it make to decenter the very core of what it is that gives you your value, right? Because remember, all of this is arbitrary. Beauty is arbitrary in the eye of the beholder. So when women are running around talking about decentering men, what exactly does that mean? Because it's just like if you have a nation that has a currency, right? That currency may have an arbitrary value, but it's an agreed upon value. And it's something that you can use to do commerce with. Over here, we talk about facts and stats, and we break things down on this type of level. Unlike a lot of these women, they just talk about their feelings, and they talk about, a lot of vanity. But over here, we're more pragmatic. And so what these women don't understand is that they're pretty much cutting off their nose to spite their face, and no pun intended, because a lot of these women will literally cut off their nose to try to be quote more beautiful, but that's a subject for another video. But they're cutting their nose off to spite their face when they try to remove men from the equation in terms of their value, right? Because there's no tangible benefits just for them to walk around looking at each other, slapping each other on the back about how beautiful they are, because they're not going to take care of each other or do any type of provision for each other simply because they're quote beautiful. All of that comes from the man. All of the benefits that come from their quote beauty comes from the man. So once again, this is all foolery. And just like they are misrepresenting that part of the equation. They are misrepresenting what men actually like. They don't want to listen to you guys. They don't want to hear what you actually like. They like to make up their own mind and then project their insecurities onto you. But let's get it.
To various extents. I mean, some are more male-centered than others, but regardless, there will always be a level of male-centeredness within us because that is literally how we're socialized in a patriarchal society. Even the misandrists are male-centered to an extent because the label misandrist that they carry is
Yeah, that's very interesting. But you know what? And even when you say that, and even if you're sincere, they'll still try to diminish it, right? They'll say, "Oh, well, he's just one guy," or something like that, right? And by the way, Shao Zulu says the best way for me to put it, if your hair does not spiral, okay, that's a good point. I don't like it. I love 4C F what these females say. Yeah. You know what, Shadow? That raises another point because when you start talking like that and you make it very clear of what you like and they can no longer diminish that or call cap, then what they like to do is put you in this little box where it's just maybe 5 guys that think like that, when in actuality there's a whole lot of guys that think like that, right? Case in point, when you're dealing with this whole false narrative and propaganda about black men chasing all these other races of women, when the statistics clearly say that 80 something percent of black men are with black women, and it actually only 10% of black men interracially date. And then and when you break down the number even further, when they always claim that, oh, well, you just running around chasing all these white women, of that 10% of black men who actually interracially date, only 6% of those are with white women. So in actuality, only around 6% of black men are with specifically white women, because those other percentages may be Latinas or Asian women, right? Or other types of alienated women. But they can't break it down like that. All they do is see a few basketball or football players with some white women, and then, clutch the pearls. It's a freaking stampede of you Negroes running around trying to get you a damn white woman, shouting where the white women at, right? That's what they think, because they don't like to use actual facts and statistics and actual empirical data. What they like to do is get in their feelings, and because they have their own insecurities, that they think everybody feels the same way they do. That's the crazy part about this whole thing. King Sin Red in the building. Salute, bro. He says, at this point, listening to a bitch talk is annoying. They can't tell me what I like or what to like. Exactly. But, we like to break it down because, we got these false narratives out here running rampant, and we really got to push back, because if we don't, then they're going to control the narrative just like they have for the past 30 or 40 years, getting on Oprah and all these other goofy ass shows, tainting our image. And for the first time in history, we have our own platforms that we can come out here and push back. And that's what I think we need to do. But shout out to you, King Seeing Red. And then D says, what D say? Man, y'all going in. D says, Commando Spawn, right? Again, they assume that all black men find them attractive. Yeah. It's very interesting you should say that, D, because I think that is the prevailing narrative. It's just like what I said earlier on the inverse, when you have these women who have the 4C hair and so forth, and they think that all black men find them unattractive. I think on the converse, the women who are the mixed women and so forth, they'll overestimate how many black men find them attractive. And I think that that's unfortunate, because all it does is paint black men in general in a very negative and stereotypical light. That means that you guys are only chasing something that doesn't look like you, right? When the facts doesn't bear that out. Because again, most black men are with women that are closer to their phenotype. There's a percentage, of black men who prefer women who are of different races or different, textures and so forth. And let's be honest, there are a lot of, I wouldn't even say a lot in terms of the whole of the number, but there's a very vocal minority of black men who prefer mixed women, right? And it means that's what they prefer. It doesn't mean they're not like me, where I'll say, okay, well, I may find some of them attractive, but some of them I don't find attractive, right? So I can go either way. But if you give me a choice, and all things being equal, I'll prefer an unambiguous attractive woman than a mixed attractive woman. That's just my preference. But that's not to say that I don't find mixed women attractive. Whereas there are other guys like what's his name, Gilbert Arenas. Clearly he doesn't like black women with natural features or dark skin or anything like that, right? I'm sure you've heard of that guy, right? He's one of the guys who I would say there's in the vocal minority, right? He'll just clearly, openly state how much he's not liking 4C hair or dark skinned women. But they'll take a guy like him who doesn't represent any of us. He only represents himself, and he's what I would consider a vocal minority. And then whether it's these exoticals or these unambiguous black women, they'll look at a guy like him and they'll take that and run with it. Because the exoticals will say, see, they all love us. They all chasing us. Just because this Negro or somebody like Tyrese or Nick Cannon or somebody like that, because they want to get a bunch of exoticals pregnant, then all of a sudden all you Negroes want to go around impregnating them, which is ridiculous. But that's the type of narrative they'll have. And, they'll cherry pick these little instances, and then all of a sudden they want to paint a broad brush. And that's what's annoying to me. And that's why I do these types of broadcasts, just to show the other side of it, right? Or to put things into the proper perspective. And then King C and Red said, they are like American women. They spew BW American talking points. Yeah. And then D says, right, everyone is now. Yeah. And King C and Red said, Eve has always wanted to be above Adam. Voting for Harris will give Eve what serpent promised to be like God. That's an interesting way of looking at it. He said all the benefits of their booty comes from the man. If I give her $40. But that's a basic way of saying it, but it's essentially the point I was making earlier, He said since elementary school, yeah. Yeah, but we're going to get back into this video, man, because we got a lot to dissect. So let's go.
Based on disliking men, which puts men in the center of the attention, right? So one of the things that was said in the...
Oh, you know what, D? You know what? That's a very good point you just made. I'm going to read that. He says they think because they carry Caucasian genetics that they are automatically considered attractive. That to me speaks to the larger issue, right? That's when it comes to just a matter of standards. Because there was a point in history where black people's standards were the norm, right? Because there was a point in time that black people were the only people on the planet. And then, as people went on and mutated and changed, then you had these regional standards. But because the European is the last group to kind of dominate the globe, then of course they're going to have their standard be the standard. But you make an interesting point, because my question would be, if, just say, a biracial person or a mixed person is considered attractive because they are Caucasian, then why would a person want to deal with them versus just going ahead and get a freaking Caucasian? You understand what I mean? So if I value, because I personally value Negroid genes, and I think that's the standard. And there's science to back it up, because Negroid genes are dominant and they're original. So, if you prefer that, then just because someone has some mixed genes, if anything, you're looking at that as kind of a negative. And again, I'm personally not one of those guys who automatically dismisses a woman because she's mixed, even though that's not my preference. But someone like D or other guys who are strictly, who only would deal with a woman who's unambiguous, then that's a negative thing. And there's a lot of guys who think like that. A lot of guys think, hey, they just want a woman who's straight up black, and so if there's some Caucasian in there, that's not a positive. And going back to my question, so what part of a mixed or an exotical makes them attractive? Is it the black side or is it the white side? If it's the black side, then I might as well cut to the chase and just give me a black woman, right? An unambiguous black woman. If it's the white side, then I might as well just give me a white woman, right? If that's what you're into. So I just find it kind of weird that someone who's mixed with both black and white, for example, they would think that the white side, I guess it is, that makes them attractive, then okay, then by your standard, white people should always be more attractive than you, because that's the side you're playing up as what makes you beautiful. So I just find that very interesting. But I'm glad you kind of said that, D, because that kind of reminded me of that point. But yeah, let's go. Let's get some more what these women got to say, and so we can break it down.
This podcast that stuck out to me was when Mariam said that men created the beauty standard that we women just end up following, which is true in many ways and untrue in other ways. So yes, men have created beauty standards that women end up following because, again, socially speaking, in many cultures in which patriarchy is the foundation, we are taught to do things that will appease and compete for men. And I guess this could be seen as sexual competition. Women compete for men, specifically heterosexual women. And also men do the same. They compete for women as well. But the main issue that male-centeredness highlights is that oftentimes women end up putting a man's needs first before their own. Just going back to the whole natural hair talking point, if the reason why you don't want to wear your natural hair is solely because the men around you have said that they don't like the texture of your natural hair, I can see why you would end up not liking your natural hair. Like, that's understandable because we do tend to care about the opinions of those close to us. And
yeah, shout out Zulu. Yeah, you raise an interesting point because a lot of the women that you have listed there, not all of them, but particularly when you're dealing with the Ethiopian and Somalia, and you know, I think you have I thought I saw Eritrea in there, but anyway, yeah, no, you got Ethiopia and Somalia. A lot of that, and as I pointed out before, that's a miscegenation zone, right? A lot of people act like they don't know history, and they'll claim like the Ethiopians of today are like the ones in ancient Nubia or ancient Kush, where they were black, some of the blackest people ever. And they look at the hair textures and they look at how these women look now, and those in the men even, and they'll claim that as if that's indigenous to Africa, and it's really not. You know, even though Ethiopia technically wasn't conquered, you know, such as, you know, in some of the other kingdoms, it was in fact invaded many times. And there was obviously men, whether it be the Arabs that came and left their spawn there. Shout out to Commando Spawn. You know, they left their spawn there, and later on the Italians. So when they invaded under Mussolini. So a lot of these women don't know history like that. And then they'll look at these traits, and then some of them will attribute it to some type of indigenous feature, and it's really not. But I just wanted to point that out because a lot of this stuff gets conflated, and we need to just kind of break this down and show what the actual history is. And oftentimes these women, particularly the ones in the West, the African-American women, they will make all these different excuses about how black comes in all shades. And we've pointed out before how that came back and bit them in their BBLs, because it let all these other women from all these different features grift onto them, because they opened up the door by thinking that they could co-opt these quote women's beauty and say that black comes in all shades. Meanwhile, these women are usurping them and giving them basically the boot by saying, well, they're the standard for beauty. And then that's where you get this break-off group known as the exoticals, and all this foolery that's happening, but it's of their own making. And that's why we're here to point that out. But let's go.
we also want to be accepted by them, because if those close to us don't accept us, then who will? But there's a very big but. Accountability needs to be applied, especially as you get older, because you do need to realize that you're letting a group of people dictate how you should feel about your natural state, which means your self-esteem will always be at their mercy, and in this case, at the mercy of men. Men's dislikes and likes tend to change a lot. And one of the things that I've realized is majority of the time, the things that they state they like in a woman is highly influenced by what other men find attractive. This means that their likes and dislikes are actually pretty fickle and flimsy and can change at the gust of a wind. A man could tell you he prefers women who don't wear makeup, but then you ask him to show you a photo of their celebrity crush, and then 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, the woman that he shows you is wearing makeup. And
yeah, D, that's crazy. Yeah, D hit the nail on the head. He said we come in maybe 3 shades and they are all dark. Yeah. And he said lies. Yeah, she was really cutting up right there, wasn't she? I mean, she was going in. We have to break that down. I don't know if you guys heard what she said. I'm gonna run it back because we're gonna have to dissect this one because this was kind of crazy what she said, but I'm gonna play it back.
Women who don't wear makeup, but then are actually pretty thick. Likes tend to change a lot. And one of the things that I've realized is majority of the time, the things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we are constant. Exactly. Because you notice what she did there, right? Once again, they are only projecting. That's mostly what they're doing here. How many times do you guys change what you like in a woman? We don't really change that much, right? I mean, this is ridiculous that she would even say that. You said we are consistent, females are not, and you said projection. Yeah, we're gonna have to break this down real quick. They're always projecting. He said, D, no, they ain't. So, but anyway, he said, what if someone born with a twin brother, if one light and one dark? So that's a question to D, right? So I guess Commando Spawn disagrees that we come in only a few shades. Well, I'll let you guys talk that one out, but I'm going to get into what this woman is saying right here. She basically is saying something that really applies to them, and she's projecting it onto us. And she's saying that it just kind of changes with the wind, and that's not true at all. Most of us, if you're a man and you like a woman with a nice shape, that doesn't change too much. Now, you might have a variation of body types like me. I like them what maybe considered slim thick to, medium thick to, not ultra like thick, but I like a woman with some meat on her as well. So I can vary depending on the woman. And you see what kind of foolery she just said. She said, well, you might see a man say that he likes a woman without makeup. I think that was our next point. Let me get that real quick.
That they state they like in a woman is highly influenced by what other men find attractive. This means
that is not true at all. I could care less what another man finds attractive. There are men who like pale skinned, bony white women. That ain't my thing. So you think I'm gonna let a group of Negroes who like that influence what I like? Hell no. We don't move like that at all. I don't know. She got y'all twisted, man. She think that because they move like that, then that's how we move. We don't move like that at all. You got men that are chubby chasers. They like obese women. I don't like that. So what is she talking about? It's ridiculous. But let's go.
That their likes and dislikes are actually pretty fickle and flimsy and can.
That doesn't even fit our personality. You see how that she's trying to. I mean, that's their personality. They are known for being fickle and flimsy. That's why they change their hairstyle every 5 minutes. We'll wear the same beard cut, the same hairstyle for years. We'll be some of you know what I'm saying is true. We'll wear the same hairstyle for years. We don't change stuff that we like. We'll buy the same products. That's why the industries that they support make billions of dollars, because all they got to do is come up with a new freaking version of the same product, and they're the ones that keep these businesses afloat. We don't do that. We're very direct in terms of what we like. We don't change much between the things that we like. So let's go.
And change at the gust of a wind. A man could tell you he.
Oh, at a gust of a wind. So that means one day you guys might wake up liking a woman who's Coke bottle shaped, but then the next day you're gonna like a big Bertha Gabby Simbide style woman shaped like a watermelon. right? So that's just how fickle you are, right? This is ridiculous. But let's go.
Prefers women who don't wear makeup, but then you ask him to show you a photo of their celebrity crush, and then 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, the woman that he shows you is wearing makeup. And some
That is so ridiculous. Number one, a guy's crush, even if there's a woman that's like a fantasy chick, most of the women that's in the public eye are going to be wearing makeup. I like how they put this ridiculous standard to say that just because a guy might prefer a woman without makeup, then all of a sudden, if he happens to like a woman that's wearing makeup, then that somehow negates what he said. It does not. And here's the reason. A guy can have a preference, just like a woman might be wearing a wig or a weave, and a man might prefer a woman with her natural hair. But if 90% of these women are out here wearing wigs and weaves, you're not exactly giving him a lot to choose from, right? You're making the market saturated with a certain thing. It's just like if the market was saturated with a certain breed of car, right? If the only thing that was out there was a freaking Chevy or a Ford, but the guy prefers a Mercedes, he's gonna buy what's available because he needs a freaking car. But if you ask him and say, hey, if you had your choice of dream car, what would it be? Oh, man, I like a freaking McLaren, right? $1 million car or something like that. If you give him his fantasy, but that doesn't mean every car that he's going to come across is going to be a freaking McLaren. That's just his fantasy. But he would, because he needs a car, he's going to get back and forth with whatever he can get. And just like these women, when they're talking about the fact that there's some type of, I guess, hypocrisy when a man says he likes natural hair, but then he'll deal with a woman that has a wig or weave. See, we don't think like them. We're very pragmatic. See, we don't make a huge list of unattainable things and then don't accept anything because if it doesn't fit our narrow list. See, that's what they do. See, us being pragmatic and practical, we'll say, well, I do prefer this, but if the market only contains this, then I'm going to deal with that. That's how we think. We'll be like, okay, I want a woman with natural hair, but 80%, 90% of these bras that I see on a daily basis is wearing a freaking weave. I need a woman, so I'm going to have to overlook that, and I'm going to deal with a woman because I like her personality, I like her face, I like her body. So I guess 3 out of 4 ain't bad, right? So we'll deal with the woman. But I guarantee you at some point in that relationship, the man is probably going to try to get her to wear her natural hair. And then because of peer pressure that she has, she don't want to wear her natural hair. So that's why they don't do it. But once again, they'll claim simply because they'll see you with a woman that's a representative of the market that they put out there, then somehow you're being the hypocrite when you still have your preference. And again, because you want to get with somebody, you're going to overlook her shortcomings, but you still have your preference. And just like this broad just said, oh, well, he might say he don't want a woman with makeup, but you see his girlfriend or his favorite crush, she's wearing makeup. Yeah, because that's what 90% of you broads are doing. But I guarantee you, if you put 50% of the market, if 50% of you broads stop wearing weaves and wigs, and you still look good, you still keep your body in shape, I guarantee you there's going to be a mad exodus from the guys that are dealing with the wigging and weaves, and they're going to be going over to the women that are wearing natural hair. Now, there may be an initial shock because a lot of you women ain't going to look the same without the wigs and the weave. So that'll last about a week, and then the guys are going to be on you just like, clockwork. So that's the thing that they don't want to deal with. See, what they want to do is make it seem as though because they are sitting up here saturating the market with a certain thing, such as all wearing wigs and weaves and makeup, then that's what you want. Hell no, they ain't nobody asked you nothing. And they ain't ask you guys nothing. They just decided to start wearing all this goofy shit. But then when they see you with somebody that's wearing all this stuff, then, oh, see, that's what he want. No, that's what was available to me. And I'm trying to talk to her to stop wearing this stuff. That's the reality of the situation. Oh, y'all here going in said Commando Spawns talking about Will Smith is light-skinned black man. He said, D, you are a biased colorist. Commando Spawn, you must be. I thought you already knew that. I mean, that's like the worst kept secret in this chat. But anyway, I'll let you guys go at it. But let's go.
Sometimes even a full face beat at that. So wearing your natural hair should be a decision only made with you in mind and not men. You should decide to wear your natural hair out because of how you feel about it, not what men feel about it. And I know for some, and most likely the ladies on the podcast, that's going to be a less desirable option to take because, as Mariam said, the aesthetic of wearing weaves and wigs that are not similar to your hair texture and essentially looking as ambiguous as possible, which I think is the look that you're trying to go for, this whole aesthetic provides the results that they want. And I assume that also includes attracting the men that they want. But my thing is, if you know you're not a man's physical type, especially in your natural state, why morph yourself into their type? I mean, you already know that the man doesn't really like your natural hair texture. He's not attracted to it. He's not attracted to your facial features. So shouldn't this tell you that you're not looking in the right places? Shouldn't this tell you that you're actually looking at the wrong men? Come on, guys, let's apply some logic here, ladies, because we can.
Yeah, but so many of them don't do that. So look, a lot of this just comes down to personal preferences. They know damn well there are plenty of guys out there who prefer, or not only like, but prefer darker skin, fuller lips, all of that. Just like you take this woman that's on the screen right now, this picture right here, right? Now, how many of you guys are going to kick her out of bed if she comes in there with her natural hair? If this is what you like, if you like her skin tone, if you like her lips, like I find her attractive, right? I think she might be wearing a little bit too much makeup, but whatever. So if she comes in the bedroom and she takes whatever that's in her hair, if it's a wig or a weave or a relaxed or whatever, if she comes in there with a nice bushy 4C hair, as long as it's well kept, not knotty or peasy, like they always try to make it seem as though 4C hair by default has to be nappy. And that's in black people's hair is the only standard by which they do that. They don't do it with other groups of people's hair because, like I said, if you ever look at an unkept Asian or Latino or white person's hair, it looks horrible. Like when their hair gets very matty, like if some of them, you may see some of those shows where they never did their hair in like 3 years or something. It gets glumps together and it's all matted and, it looks horrible. But that's what bad hair looks like in any race if it's not well kept. Same thing with black people's hair. If you don't comb it or brush it or put the right conditioners in there or oils or what have you, scalp treatments, if you don't take care of your hair, it's going to look bad. But why is that the default setting for 4C hair? It shouldn't be. Some of us know how to keep our hair looking nice. Keep it washed, keep it clean, keep it smelling good, all of that. And like I said, even as men, we're the main ones that like 4C hair because not only do we let it grow on our hair, on our head, we let it grow on our face. Because some of us have nice beards like me, I'm growing it out, and mustaches. And you don't see us putting chemical relaxers in our freaking beard. We let it grow the way it is. We may use beard treatments, like oils and, brushing it and combing it and so forth. That's a proof right there that we don't have a freaking problem with 4C hair. If it was, we'd be walking around with a, shaved face all the time. But no. And don't you guys find it ironic that a lot of these women, they don't like themselves to be wearing 4C hair, but they love it on you? See, a lot of these women don't have a problem with the men having hair that's 4C or beards that's 4C. In fact, many of them prefer that, but they just don't prefer it for themselves. It's just kind of weird. Whereas on the flip side, we're wearing our 4C hair, and we also will deal with them that have 4C hair. But yet, we're the ones that's always in question as to whether or not we're the ones that like 4C hair. It's freaking crazy. But let's go.
Say that men have created these unattainable beauty standards for women, but women uphold these standards just as much, and are even harsher towards other women about beauty compared to men. Most black women prefer to date and marry black men, which is normal because people do tend to gravitate towards people within their group. Unfortunately, though, they do like to go for the texturist black men from what I've noticed. So what do? They change themselves to look more ambiguous to attract these men because they know that's what these men are.
Once again, that's all a projection. And again, maybe it's the specific men that they're going after that may have those preferences. Because like I said, there's a lot of men that is their preference. They want a woman who looks mixed. Like I said, I used an example. What's his name? Gilbert Arenas. He's one guy that stands out. In fact, I think he's the only guy that I've heard that said, for example, that Lupita Nyong'o is not attractive. Now, I may not like her life decisions. I think she's, kind of weird in that department. But in terms of her physicality, I think Lupita Nyong'o is very attractive. But I've heard Gilbert Arenas say that she was unattractive. So, and I think he's the only black man I've ever heard say that. So I just find it pretty interesting that they can always find a way to say that there's so many, as if, there's no black men that prefer 4C hair, but maybe it's just the men that they're interested in that they want to try to extrapolate to the larger group, meanwhile ignoring the 90% of the guys who probably would go for them, because they're horrible when it comes to these numbers, right? Because like I said earlier, just to underscore the point, they just like when you look at the actual stats of how many black men date out, it's relatively low, right? It's only between, I think it's still around 10%. And like I said, of that number, only 6% happen to be Caucasian. And those other percentages of other, quote, women of color, even though I don't like that term, they may be Asians or Latinas, within that number. But that's a very small number relative to the whole of black men who strictly want a non-black woman. But for some reason, they can't see that, and they think you're all chasing Becky or Becky with the good hair. It's either an outright Becky or it's a Becky with the good hair. You only want one of those. You at no point do you ever want a 4C woman, right? Which is crazy because it doesn't even reflect history. But let's go.
Attracted to. Trust me, the worst thing you can do to yourself and self-esteem.
They think you prefer this platinum blonde goofy bullshit right there on this woman's head. Now, guys, give me a 1 in the chat if you can stop arguing. It's all love over here. You're all Knight Riders, so don't let it get. I know D and Commando Spawn going at it, but if you guys prefer this over, well, give me a 1 if you prefer an afro over this, but give me a 2 if you prefer that. So let's see how you guys. This is our unscientific poll. With you guys that's in the chat that they're speaking, we got more people in the building. They may not want to be in the chat, but for you guys that's in the chat, give me a 1 if you prefer an afro to this, or give me a 2 if you like this platinum blonde right here. Let me know what you like, because I'm gonna put mine in the chat. You can give me an afro any day of the week over there. I don't give a goddamn if it is 4C nappy. I'd rather have that over this. Now, of course, I prefer a woman with well-kept hair, conditioned, smelling good, rub your head. Because even with, 4C hair, you can rub your hands through it if it's maintained well. But I would take that over what's on that screen right there. But, let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I know D and Commando Spawn going at it. But King C and Red says, see, they can't figure us out just because we will screw a certain woman don't mean that is our preference. Thank you. See, that's that part right there, bro. That is I'm glad you mentioned that. That is exactly the point. Man, that's crazy. It's just, look, think of it like this, bro. It's like food, right? Let's say you're kind of like a guy that's more conscious of health, and you know what foods are good for you, right? You might be on some healthy stuff. You'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna eat the salad. I'm gonna eat the baked foods. I'm not gonna eat a lot of fried foods. I'm gonna be more healthy, right? But every once in a while, you might want a slice of pizza, right? Even though you're a health nut, you prefer to eat well. You prefer to eat all your micronutrients. You're doing all the right things. But every once in a while, you get a taste for a hamburger or something like that, right? That don't mean that's your preference. Your preference is to eat healthy. But somehow these women will say, okay, you could be spending most of your life eating healthy, right? In shape, in the gym, all of that. And then they see you with a slice of pizza, then all of a sudden, see, you got a slice of pizza. See, and then they think they got a gotcha moment, and they think that they'll take that little snapshot and they'll make that the reflection of your life. Meanwhile, for years, you have been eating healthy. You see what I'm saying? So I'm glad you said that, King C and Red, because that's the point right there. Just because you dip off and will mess with a woman that doesn't fit your preference, then as men, we could do that. See, them, they don't function like that. See, they like one thing. It's like when they have their little goofy list that they put together. And if a man doesn't fit into that little cookie cutter box that they have, then that's when they start dismissing them. And then they get to be 30, 40, 50 years old because they didn't find those specific traits on that little list that they have. Then won't deal with anybody. See, they do that kind of dumb stuff. As men, we know that life is about compromise, right? We know that, okay, I might want a woman with all of these different traits, but guess what? Most women may not have those. And if I find a woman that I vibe with and she has a good personality and she has 3 or 4 of the 5 things that I like, then I'll deal with her over the one that might only have 2 of those things. On the other hand, they want of their 10 things that they want all 10 things. They don't even want to deal with a man that has 9 of them. He got to have all 10. See, that's how they think. We don't think like that. We'll be like, okay, I got 5 things I want her to be. Oh, she got 3. You know what? I'll take that because all the rest of the women I'm coming across, she only has 2 or 1. But if I come across a woman that got 4, then, I'll take that one. That's how we think. But anyway, are you guys putting y'all, yeah, you get your one. Shout out Zulu 1 like me. Ray Hamlin in the building. Salute to you, bro. Yeah, I got your email. I believe I hit you back. I got to it late because I had a busy week. M1 in the building. Salute. He put his 1 up in the building. He said Afro over a weave any day. Salute to you, bro. Good to see you over here. Yeah. So everybody's basically 1 like me. So yeah, everybody hitting that 1. Commando Spawn 1. D, of course, 1. Yeah, so again, it's kind of crazy that they'll sit up here and keep projecting this onto you like you won't have a way to discern what you actually like. And because they have convinced themselves, then that, it's true, right? Because they've convinced themselves that you only like a certain type of woman, then that's what the reality is, which is ridiculous. But let's go.
Is solely based how you view yourself on what a man thinks of you. Another factor that many don't mention about Black women's dislike for their natural hair is how your childhood upbringing has a massive impact on how one views themselves. Many Black women who do wear wigs and weaves that don't match their hair texture also have mothers, aunties, sisters, and just women in general in their lives that also do not embrace their natural hair texture.
Exactly. So ain't that what we've been saying over here? Isn't that what we brought out before? In fact, I think it might be time for me to put one of my homegrown theories on the screen. There are 4 key points. Then let me pull that on the screen real quick. Because we go over the different types of men that the single mothers create. And number 4 is self-hating baby mamas produce, quote, colorist Black men who reject natural Black women's features. Isn't that what we've been saying over here? And that's exactly what she just said, right? We've been saying that. Self-hating baby mamas. So the ones that are out here that believe all this goofy shit, that are, tied hook, line, and sinker to the Eurocentric standard, those are the ones that teach their daughters, who perpetuate this, and their sons. So when you do have guys who come out saying they don't like 4C hair, they don't like Negroid features, where the hell do you got it from? It's just like when I called out Umar, and you notice he has not said it since, because I tagged him on that video, and he has not said it since, at least that I've heard, when he tried to claim that dark-skinned men are the most colorist or whatever goofy shit he said. And I proved that to be wrong because I hit him with 2 questions. I said, well, is it nature or nurture? We know it's not nature, because that would mean that by default, dark-skinned black men just come out hating themselves, which we know that can't be true, because how would you get a Marcus Garvey or Khalid Abdul Muhammad or even him, right? As pro-black as he claims to be, he's dark-skinned as well as some of the men that's in my chat right now, right? And myself. So it can't be genetic. So that only leaves one other option, which is nurture, because it's either nature or nurture. And nurture is how they were raised. And who's raising them? Oh yeah, Umar, you can't point out the hand that feeds you. Can't bite the hand that feeds you, right? You can't say who the culprit really is, because if those boys are growing up being colorists and turning into grown men that are colorists, like I pointed out before, Matthew Knowles, which is Beyonce's father, his own mother, and this is his words that came out of his mouth, which would be Beyonce's grandmother, told him that he better not bring a black nappy-head woman home. That's his own black mother that told him that and instilled that upon him. You think that's the only thing she told him? She taught him and nurtured him into being against Negroid features, and that's why he ended up with Tina Knowles, who looks damn near white. So all this can be traced back to the same culprit, and that's what this woman just said here on this video. But let's get a little bit more.
So this is why I have to kind of take a pause when we have these conversations, because it's not just all because of men. There are so many other factors that lead into this. Like I said before, women hold other women at a higher standard of beauty than men, and women know exactly how women treat other women who they do not find pretty. They can be just as mean and horrible as men can be, if not worse at times, because we are in closer proximity to other women than we are to men. And I believe that even if men as a collective said they prefer natural hair, type 4 hair specifically, there probably would be a lot of women who might do the switch if they actually saw that the men backed up this statement with actions, like praising women who have natural hair and so on.
Isn't it amazing that no matter how much you guys and other guys say how much you like natural hair, which is actually praising that they don't hear that? See, that's why a lot of you guys are checking out and you don't even give a damn no more. You're just going about your business, because no matter what you say you like, they still going to end up looking like this woman right here, looking like she's from X-Men Storm or some damn body with a freaking platinum wig on. So they're just doing, look, they're doing that for each other. They're competing against each other. They don't give a damn what you guys like. That's why you don't give a damn what they like. You going about your business. So I just find it so weird that they constantly keep regurgitating these same talking points that have been proven over and over again to be fake. They claim that no men or particularly black men, are saying how much you like natural hair, when black men have literally made songs talking about how much they like dark skin, black hair, coming up with slogans, black is beautiful. Where do you think all that came from? That came from black men. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. That all came from black men. So how is it that black men's preferences are always under question when black men are the only ones that have consistently culturally uplifted natural Negroid features? Up to this day. Up to this day. Wait a minute. Did somebody say to this day? It's been a while since I did this one, but yeah, because he been losing, but it's still appropriate. To this day, we've been the main ones upholding the black standard.
To this day.
Yeah, you see the nappy beard he wearing? Yeah, so we're the ones that's upholding the standard. So it should never be coming out of their mouth as to whether or not black men like 4C hair. When we not only are wearing it on our head, we are wearing it on our face as well in the form of our beards. But let's go.
But I actually think a lot of black women would still hang on to that Cambodian silky straight hair, because it's gotten to the point where it's a part of them now. Back to the topic of attractive men who prefer women who look nothing like ambiguous black women. From what I've seen, those women...
Shadow Zulu says, I better not catch you ninjas wearing beard perms. You know what, bro? Even though they have those, and I just recently found out about that. If you notice, a lot of the things, see what these women like to do is they like to conflate totally different things. So they'll say, "Oh, well, there's man weaves and there's beard perms." Well, guess what? There's mostly, when you see men wearing those type of things. Now, thankfully, I'm blessed to where I don't have to. I got a full beard and it's natural and all of that. But and I don't use no just for me and all that too. So people who see the pictures or whatever, and they see me when I get on cam, and they see my beard is mostly black. The reason for that is because of lack of stress. I basically eliminated a lot of stress from my life, and I do have some gray in there, but it's just kind of peppered within. But mostly my beard is still black. But the point of the matter is, when we do wear whatever those type of additives are, they're natural. There are natural textures. So that's not even the same thing. And in fact, I'm going to show you guys a video a little later. We may not even have that much of a problem, even if they were wearing wigs and stuff like that, even though we don't prefer it, if it was their natural texture. See, that's the thing. They don't even acknowledge that part. A lot of the problem that a lot of you guys have is the fact that this is not even their texture of hair. It's from some freaking woman from India or Thailand or some damn where. If you want a woman with that kind of hair, you just go over there and get one at the source, right? That's the part they don't understand, and it's ridiculous. But let's go.
Who, especially unambiguous black women who try to fit into that aesthetic of looking a lot more ambiguous, they will always be seen as second best. Because the guy could just go for an actual racially ambiguous woman. And when that happens, where does this leave you? All your efforts of trying to appease this man would have been wasted. Or in another scenario, the man could go for a completely different woman way outside of what he said his type is. And again, you would have wasted your time and energy and money trying to fit into a box that he only has just for decoration. And another thing that was quite interesting about this clip was that Mariam specifically has been vocal about how wigs have negatively affected her. And she's mentioned this on various other platforms about how wigs have caused her to have traction alopecia and bald spots. I think it's good to be open about these things to inform people.
Yeah, so they get all those side effects from wearing it, but they still wearing it. See, that's an addiction, right? Anytime you're doing something over and over again and it has deleterious effects, it has negative effects, but you still keep doing it, that's called an addiction, right? Just as like drugs. People do drugs just for that euphoria, that dopamine or whatever, that desire to get that feeling is so great that even though their life is a ruin, their life is a shambles, they still cannot stop. These women a lot of them are going broke with this weave. A lot of them have been resorting to thievery. We've all seen the videos where they'll go in a pack and start stealing from the beauty supply store and got a freak flying over the counter with a damn spinning dragon backflip kick, kicking her all up inside all about the head. And you got some little 5'4" or 4 or 5 foot Korean woman doing backflips like that movie Don't Be a Menace to Society while drinking your gin and juice in the hood or whatever, that Marlon Wayans movie. Remember that scene where that little Korean woman was every time they turned around, she was right there doing, hiding. Yeah, you got one of them people coming out of nowhere, smacking them upside the head as they're in there trying to steal because they have a freaking addiction. But then they're projecting it on you like you're the ones that can't go without it, but they're the ones risking life and limb and spending billions of dollars a year to wear this stuff. But somehow you're the one that's addicted to it. It's ridiculous.
People about the potential downsides of wearing wigs and weaves, but she still wears them. And of course, this is her choice, but it just makes me think this really shows that women's desire to want to benefit from pretty privilege and always be in high demand. And in my opinion, it's totally fine to want to have pretty privilege and benefit from it. But
yeah, so Commando Spawn, I think somebody else mentioned that. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. You said the EU, you said you got to react to that recent EU chick. It's propaganda. She had no receipts. So what is that about? Yeah, I'm not familiar with that story.
These women and many alike seem to be trying to get pretty privilege by trying to change their features to resemble those of another group at the detriment of their own health. When in actuality, they could get pretty privilege by embracing their natural self more, including their natural hair, without having to put themselves in danger. And this is why I made my Pretty Privilege series to give unambiguous Black women, especially dark-skinned women, a guide in how they can.
Yeah, so they are doing that pretty privileged stuff, which again, whether it's these exoticals or these unambiguous Black women, they keep talking about this privilege of being pretty while simultaneously, quote, decentering men, which is a contradiction in terms, because if you're not getting the approval and the benefits from the men, then what exactly privileges are you receiving just for quote being beautiful, when there is a plethora of women who are beautiful, and the only relative benefits that you're going to get is the proximity that you have to men that can benefit you because of how you look. I don't care if you're going to the store or whatever. And there are those instances that the checkout guy might put a little something in your bag or give you some type of discount. I mean, I'm not saying that type of stuff doesn't happen, but typically those are men that may do it. I mean, maybe the car mechanic, an average woman, they may overcharge for certain uh, mechanical work being done on their car, whereas a woman who's considered a 9 or a 10, which I don't consider no woman a 10, but some guys may have a 10 in their mind, but just say she's an 8 or a 9, then that guy might decide he's going to shoot his shot, and one way of him doing it might be to give her a little discount on her car work, things like that. But those are typically guys that are doing that because amongst themselves they typically give each other hate. If one woman is substantially more attractive than the next one, then they start immediately hating on each other or giving each other these bullshit backhanded compliments and stuff like that. So the only intrinsic privileges or benefits that they're getting are from the same men that they're claiming to decenter. Total madness. But let's go.
Attain it without having to subject themselves to harm and danger just to look like someone else and still
Yeah, Commando Spawn. That platinum blonde broad, she looked just like Storm. Yeah.
embrace your natural beauty for your self-esteem and confidence. What do you all think about this?
But anyway, that's it for her. But yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of dissecting that foolery. It's just kind of interesting that they like to project all of this stuff, and it's them once again. But we're gonna get into the main course, which is this particular young lady and some of the points that she was making. I think we've already destroyed a lot of them already, but there's some other talking points that she has that we need to get into. And then D says, just say that you are Caucasian identified and that you prefer Caucasian males. Yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of them need to just come out and say. And D said, hurry up and buy. Yeah, you know the scene I was talking about. Yeah, Shadow Zulu, yeah, y'all get it. You hurry up and pay. Yeah, that's what happens. They go in these stores, and those Koreans, Chinese, or whatever, they're all over them because they be in there stealing those wigs and weaves because it's an addiction, just like the crackheads used to do back in the 80s. And they going in there to get their fix. And then all of a sudden, one of those little Korean chicks come out with a roundhouse flying spinning back kick and knocks that damn wig off their head. And then they got to run out the store, grabbing whatever bundles they can get. So that's how it normally turns out. And then King Senior Red says, Night Riders SquadCast, I have the answer. Since they are decentering men, now they can stop wearing fake hair. They say we don't like their hair, so they wear fake hair. So now they can stop. Exactly. That's a very good point. That's the best way to decenter us. Just start wearing your natural hair since we hate it so much. Since it's like garlic and a cross and sunlight to a vampire, then why don't they just do that? For them to be decentering us, they sure are wearing the very things that they claim that we like, right? So it's funny that they assume that, you guys like all of these different Euro adjacent standards, but they can't seem to pry themselves away from that. And somehow you are repelled away from the natural look, but they don't want to do that. But yet they want to decenter you. You see how stupid this all is? But that's a very good point, King C and Red. And then he says no higher than a 7. Yeah, that's his stand. He said no higher than a 7. That's it. So D, your scale then is from 1 to 7. Then you don't even have a scale from 1 to 10. I have a scale from 1 to 10, but no woman gets to a 10. But you said no higher than a 7, so that means your scale is from 1 to 7, right? And then Shadow says I'm not giving any woman a 10, but I'll give them a tan when she's in the sun. All right. But yeah, but let's get into this next video, which is the main course. And this is the lady. I think she's from England too. So I think that's a running theme nowadays. You get a lot of these women from the UK chiming in. I think the previous video that we from his Coco team, she sounded like she had an accent as well. But here's another one. Her name is I don't know if it's Chloe or Coley, or it's spelled like Coley, but I guess it's pronounced. I don't know. I think her name is Coley is how it's pronounced, and that's how it's spelled. But you know, with these weird pronunciations these days, I don't know. But she's from the UK. But we're gonna break down. And if you look at her hair texture, I don't know if that's a chemical or maybe she's one of these dark exoticals. I don't know. But her hair texture seems kind of like 3C if that's her real hair. So I don't know. But we're gonna break this down. So let's get it.
Asexual or androgynous. You can rock it if you have big tits and are wearing low-cut shirts or something to balance out the attract. If natural hair on a woman is being masculinized, then she definitely won't wear it out. But then at the same time, what men can't then do is say, I like natural. Women want to be found to be attractive by their male counterpart. And if their image is being politicized, their natural image is being politicized or associated with a fight or a struggle of some sort, then they're not gonna want to have that out. They want to feel pretty. But if dudes,
okay, she said they want to feel pretty. But yeah, that's one thing you notice about their accent. Just like we might say community, they say community. So she's gonna be saying that a lot. But it's kind of funny. But you know, that's that British accent. But her point with that particular opening clip is that somehow because Black women's natural features such as afros and so forth, you know, when they wear their hair in a natural style, then it's been politicized. But my question is, why does that have to be mutually exclusive? Why does the fact that it may be an associated sense of self-pride or what she called politicizing, why is that mutually exclusive to her still being considered attractive? She says they like to feel pretty. Okay, well, why can't you feel pretty and be conscious at the same time? Why can't you feel like, okay, you're pretty and you're being who you really are, and you're also making a statement? Why does it have to be one or the other? Why did there has to be this kind of neutral, self-preserving, self-aggrandizing, self-identified form of beauty? Why do you have to break it into these different parts? Why can't it be all encompassing? So that's the thing they never get, you know, that somehow two things can be true at the same time. You could be making a statement about how you are proud to be who you are while being beautiful. So that's the part that's really crazy that they think like that. But anyway, let's go.
Not being honest about what they like and don't like, and they're saying I like natural, and then she goes natural and you just don't like it, now you want her to straighten it, then that's gaslighting. To be honest, I think we don't actually explore how a lot of men in the community feel as well, and the insecurities they have going on. Like, guys,
yeah, and again, Chow Zulu, I kind of feel you on that. I prefer women with, like you said, spirals or coils or curls in their hair. And again, at that point, it really doesn't matter, right? I mean, whether it's 4C or 3C or whatever. And again, I'm not an expert on how these styles look. I'm just kind of going from memory what I remember 3C looks like. But I think that's more of the looser curl. So yeah, I don't mind that. Once I got a handful of it, I don't care if it's 4C or 3C, if you know what I mean, right? It's all the same at some point, right? As long as it's well kept. It doesn't have to be straight. Again, I don't prefer straight hair, and it doesn't have to be loosely curled. It can be tightly coiled as long as it's healthy and well managed. That's the part they miss. They just make it seem like the default setting of 4C always got to be knotty and peasy, and you got to freaking, if you comb it, you're going to see sparks. They think it has to be like that, when in reality, that's just hair that's not being kept. That's hair that's dry. It's not moisturized or conditioned right. And so, yeah, it's going to come out looking bad. But it doesn't have to. The default setting to 4C hair doesn't have to be nappy. It could be 4C and still be soft and still be well-kept hair. But that's the part of the argument that they never want to deal with. But let's get it.
It used to do the curly pan thing as well. Like, yeah, that's the thing.
I genuinely feel like you should embrace your natural hair when you're younger, but that's hard for me to say because I didn't really do that. So, but that's what I think you should do. I think getting your hair and stuff when you're in secondary school, it's just not worth it. You're young. But
yeah, but why do?
But again, Shadow, they don't have to force some of us who actually like it. But again, they've demonized 4C hair because they're the ones that break their necks to cover it up every 5 minutes. They call it a quote protective style, but what the hell are they protecting? They're just trying to protect their reputation because they don't want to be seen with their own freaking hair growing out of their head. So they throw a wig on top of it, meanwhile killing the hair. And whenever they do take the weave out, it looks like when freaking Darth Vader took his helmet off. The scab, it looks horrible because they're not letting their scalp get nutrients from the sun, vitamin D. They're not letting it get air. It's crazy. There's been all kind of horror stories about fungus and all types of stuff, even insects coming out of their head. It's disgusting. But they do all of that in an effort to cover up their natural hair, and then they wonder why it's breaking off and they've got bald spots everywhere and that the hair is brittle and dry because they're not taking care of it. Meanwhile, if a woman's taking care of their hair, got it properly kept, then it looks very good. And I'm going to show some examples of that a little bit later. But let's get it.
You practice what you preach.
As I just said.
No, I mean now. Just it now.
Now.
This is an opportunity.
I don't want that opportunity.
Liar. Look, let's be real. Benzo, tell me if I'm lying. There's thousands of people watching right now. As men, black men, we love our women natural, right?
Listen.
And see, there's another guy who said it right there. But watch what this young lady says in response to this man saying what he liked.
Okay. For those of you that are black men, is that true?
Yes, it is. If you're asking a legitimate question without your own preconceived notions, then the answer is yes. A lot of men like natural hair, and we don't care as much as you guys do in terms of the texture. Like Shadow Zulu said, I'm going to put his comment back on the board. Where's his comment at about the... Yeah, here we go. Like Shadow Zulu said, as long as the hair is black and spirals, I like it. So that's his range of preference. He just likes spirally hair. Now, some guys might have a certain range. They may not like 4C. I don't know what's after 4C, maybe 4B or whatever. I don't know. But some guys might go from 4B to 3C or whatever. Some guys might not like 4B for whatever reason. Maybe it's because their mama taught them not to like it, right? But whatever his reasoning is, he might prefer, maybe a looser curl. But at the same time, he has a preference that's within a certain range. But they like to ignore the guys who do like where they be from the 4B to the 3Cs or whatever. And just because he likes the 3Cs, then they'll exclude the fact that he likes the 4Bs also. So that's the thing that's so crazy. Well, let's get what she has to say.
Is it true? Is it true? I love being natural. I do my natural thing because I like my naturalness. We've talked about this before, but is it true that black men like natural? I've had this debate so many times with my black male friends. Come on, man. Come on. I think there are some, maybe, but for the most part, I'm not sure I agree. Especially with the, like, every time I hear guys say that on some of these like interviews or podcasts, they'll be like, "Oh, I love natural."
You mean like this podcast, or like as we like to say, squadcast? Well, let's go.
I love natural, and then you see the girl, and it's a lace front with like a bag of makeup. So I'm like, "Well, you don't? No, you don't."
See, isn't that the point I just made earlier? You see the faulty logic right there. So because a guy says he prefers or he likes natural hair, and she just happens to see him with a woman wearing a lace front, then that automatically eliminates what his preference is. Even though, like I said earlier, that's what 90% of the market is presenting. See, we can look past that because if this guy is with a woman who's wearing a lace front, which personally I don't like that shit, but if a guy is willing to compromise that because he happens to like the woman, because unlike them, we don't think that a woman is totally the essence of who she is contained within the parameters of her hair. And because she may be a good person, at least for that particular guy, and he likes other aspects of her, and she might be hitting all his other points, he'll overlook that. He said, okay, well, I like the way she cooks. I like the way she looks. I like her body, but I can't stand that freaking lace front. But I'm gonna overlook it because that's what she likes. And you know how conciliatory a lot of black men are, especially in the West, and they do tend to be very laid back in terms of their women. I think they need to be more assertive. That's just me, and that part of the reason why the situation is as bad as it is because a lot of these Negroes just let things get out of hand. But anyway, maybe that's why I'm not there anymore, but whatever. But the point is, a man will say, okay, look, I like all of these different things about her. So even though I would prefer that she's wearing her natural hair, I will give that a pass. She's wearing a wig, she's wearing a lace front, but I like everything else, so I'll deal with it. But in her mind, oh, well, just because you say you like some natural, but I see you with a woman with a lace front, so therefore it's capped. No. The problem is that 90% of the freaking market, and if that man wants a woman, he's going to have to compromise. Because unlike them, we understand that there's only a limited number of people that are going to fall within your spectrum of things you like. So you're going to have to compromise some things. And most men are going to have to compromise on the natural hair thing because 90% of the women aren't wearing their natural hair. And I guarantee you, if the market changed and there was 50% of those women who are wearing wigs just went cold turkey and stopped, then you would still see men gravitating towards them. But they're too scared to do that because they have their wig addiction. But let's go.
It's fine. Just say I don't like the natural thing. I just think be honest. Every time we have these conversations, I'm like, can we just have an honest conversation, please? Can we just be honest? Because the moment someone's honest, there's nothing anyone can say after that.
Indeed, that started a long time ago. And unfortunately, they think that it's always been like that. But, that's the reason why things are screwed up. But let's go.
You've been honest. Nah, I don't like the natural thing. I like when my girls are like wearing like the lace fronts and like when they're wearing loads of makeup. That's what I like.
I've never in my life heard a man say that. See, she's conflating the fact that a man, she might see men with that, which again underscores my point. The reason why you're going to see a lot of men with that is because that's what's available. Because most of you women are coming out the house looking like that. So if he's going to get him a woman, he's going to have to get one that got makeup and a freaking wig on. Because that's what the market is saturated with. But that's not his preference, though. That's the part that they don't understand. Shadow says, wig addiction. What's he got wig addiction equals wig addiction. Yeah, exactly.
Just say that. But it's coming like people are saying the natural thing just because it sounds nice. People vote with their feet. Come on.
Here's a lot of terms she's going to be using a lot. voting with your feet. Now, that would suggest that there's somehow an equal distribution, like it's a democracy, right? Because in a democracy, that's where votes count. Well, the dating market with regard to black women's hairstyles is not a freaking democracy. It is a dictatorship. It is a very because like someone said before, they're like social communists. This is an outright fascist dictatorship where they are only giving you one style. All right. Maybe every once in a while they'll slip a natural style in there, but it's not a democracy. There is no vote. They're not voting with their feet. They're getting what's available to them. See, that's the flaw in this point that she's trying to make. She's trying to say that men are voting with their feet because she only sees men with wigs, but little does she know that that's the only thing that's mostly on the market. You only can vote, at least fairly, if there's free and uncorrupted elections. But this is a tyrannical dictatorship in terms of these wigs. In fact, that's their crown. It's a monarchy or a queendom, and their corrupted crown is that wig, at least in the West. You know, for the men who have the unfortunate or the misfortune to still be there having to deal with that. That's what that is. So there's no voting with their feet because they're in a wigopoly. I just created a new word, Shadow Zulu, a wigopoly. So let's go.
It's extremely sensitive. It's a very, very sensitive subject in terms of being natural and not having hair at all. Those two subjects, ooh, a lot of it feeds into like texturism and stuff like that, but it's a very, very sensitive topic. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to hair, it really is about what women think men find attractive in this community. And men vote with their feet.
Well, in this community, in her case, she's talking about over in Britain, but you know, similar. You know, obviously, you know, a lot of these discussions were centered in America. Look, the reason why they think like this is from their own projection, because every single time a man is saying that he likes natural hair, it's dismissed. They're claiming that it's capped. They're claiming that he's just saying it because it sounds good. No, that's actually what he likes, but he only has what's available to him because it's only based on what the market is saturated with. But let's go.
So I know a lot of guys that are like, yeah, I like natural, and I see what they're with, and it's
Charles Zulu says wigopoly and wig addiction is taking over. Yeah, it didn't already took over, unfortunately.
It's not that. So women are preying that they're seeing that, and they're like, listen, man, I want a man, and I'm trying to get what I want. So even though they're saying one thing, I like natural, they don't mean it. So let me do the other thing because that's what gets the guy.
Now, but you see how what she said is like, it's like a chicken or the egg concept, right? Which came first? Because she's claiming that a lot of these women, they like wigs and weaves, so I'm gonna get that because that's what they like. Well, you know what's so ironic is that women are more single nowadays than they ever were in the past when women were less wigs and weaves. Well, she wasn't ready for that. So if she sees this video, you know, I don't think she was ready for that one. But let me repeat it. Her and women like her who make this claim that they're going to get these wigs and weaves because that's what the men like. Meanwhile, their foremothers were more married than they are, and they didn't wear half the wigs and the weaves. So how do you explain that? See, it's this circular argument. It's like I said before, they've saturated the market, and that's what the men are choosing because that's what's available to them. But they're thinking that the men are choosing it because that's what they want. Meanwhile, they're the ones that have infested the market with this, with these wigs and weaves, and it becomes a self-prophecy because they're in their mind, they're thinking that's what the men want, and that's what they keep throwing out there. Meanwhile, the men don't actually want that, but they're just taking what they can get. For the ones who, you know, the guys in the West who still want to deal with all this BS, but that's the problem. And meanwhile, to my point, I'll make it again. If what they're saying is true, and somehow black men in particular It's just so impossible for you guys to be attracted to a woman with natural hair, 4C at that. How do they explain the fact that in decades past, when women were rocking the afros, wearing the natural hairstyles, they were getting married more than with all these goddamn weaves everywhere? How do they explain that? Well, let's go.
And in that regard, I think it's valid. Glad to see more flat iron versus chemical facts, because you can permanently lose it, and that's heartbreaking. Like the perms and stuff, the relaxers. I remember when I was a kid and I really, really, really wanted to perm my hair, or relax my hair, should I say, because I know the language is different. So relax, like get it chemically straightened. And all my friends, like when we turned, I'd say probably like 13, like all my friends were doing it. And I loved it. And I was like, oh, Mom, can you please let me do mine? Like, I really want it. And I see the little boxes with like the little girls on there with like pin straight hair. And I was like, oh, I really want it. And she was like, listen, Coley, what's going to happen is as soon as I give it 2 months, the hair's going to be breaking off. It's going to be stiff. Like, trust me, you don't want it. Like, I've done it. You don't want it. She never, ever, 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 ever allowed me to relax my hair. So my whole life, I've never relaxed my hair. What I can say,
so like she did you a favor, but anyway.
Say though, is those girls, their hair did break off. And I was like, why has that happened? It's damaging, man. But, you know, people can do what they want with their head. That's fine. I prefer honesty around it. But it is what it is.
Right now, as men, black men, we love our women natural, right?
You love your woman natural.
So what? Wait a second. Shout out to Gossip Girl in the chat, guys. Gossip Girl's in the building. So why black men don't let their fro grow? They look like constipation.
Oh, yeah, that's another one, guys. So I guess one of her commenters called Gossip Girl sounds pretty intellectual to me, but anyway, this Gossip Girl person in her chat said something to the effect of, so why black men don't let their hair, well, let me take this down, see if I can see this comment. She said, so why black men don't let their fro grow? They look like cancer patients. Okay, well, see, here we go again with these conflations, these false equivalencies. Many black men suffer from male pattern baldness. So that means they'll be going bald at an early age. So a lot of times what they'll do is, instead of walking around looking like George Jefferson or the lead singer from Earth, Wind, and Fire, shout out to those guys, but you get my point. Instead of letting their hair grow uneven, they'll just shave it off, because bald styles are very, for a lot of women, they find bald-headed men attractive. So instead of them walking around with the George Jefferson look, they'll just cut their hair off, which makes sense. So they're not doing that to hide their 4C hair. They're doing it because they have male pattern baldness. But somehow these women will say, well, since you're cutting your hair, that means you don't like your 4C hair. I guarantee you, if a man was able to grow a full head of hair, he's going to grow his hair out. And just because he's bald, most of the black men that I know that have gone bald, they're not bald. They're not wearing a shaved bald head because that's what they prefer. It's because that's the way their hair is growing. And so they're shaving the sides off and making it even because they look better with it bald, instead of walking around with a reverse fade where it's low on the top and high on the sides, right? So that's why they do that. They're not doing it because they don't like their 4C hair. But anyway.
That's right. Constipations. Man, listen. Everyone knows, yeah, in the community, hair is a tough subject. People lie.
Right, that's what I said, Shadow. See, that's what they don't understand. They think it's a choice. A lot of guys who are going bald, they'll cut it off because it looks better than letting it grow wild on the sides and then having no hair on the top. So just for symmetric purposes, if nothing else, and for ease of keeping it easy, they'll just shave it off. That's all. It ain't because they hate their 4C hair. Because you notice, just like with the guy that's talking, he let his beard grow. So if he don't like 4C hair, why is he let his 4C hair grow on his face then? Because like I said, I've said before, and I'll say it again, there's more empirical evidence that black men love 4C hair more than black women, because not only do we grow it on our head when we can, but we grow it on our face as well. But let's go.
People lie. Like, everyone, oh, I love natural. Listen, man, it's an issue. This is literally the point. Like, people aren't honest about it. There are people that don't like their natural hair because they don't feel confident having their natural hair. I personally do think it's linked to men. I do, because I think if even though men keep saying in the black community, I love natural, I think they vote with their feet a lot of the time.
And again, she keeps using that term, vote with your feet. But again, you can only vote in free and fair elections. What's going on in the black community is not free and fair elections. It is a dictatorship. It is a weaveocracy. Okay, a weaveopoly. That's what's going on. 90 to 100% of these women are walking around with freaking weaves, and you're talking about some freaking voting with your feet? No, there's no choice but to get that if you want a woman in some of those communities. But anyway, let's get it.
They will look for doesn't look like what they're saying they're looking for. So I think for women that don't want their hair out, it's more time because of the guys in the community. And of course, Thatcherism and the stuff we talk about. Like in the States, it's nappy headed. In the UK, Jamaican culture anyway, would be like, picky hair, whatever.
Again, you see what I'm saying, right? So always when it's coming to 4C hair, the default setting is always, quote, nappy, or whatever she said they say in Britain, picky haired or whatever, right? So why is it that when it comes to 4C hair, the default setting is it at its worst state? Just like when you're dealing with European hair or what do you call it, Asian people's hair, when they don't keep their hair up, it looks pretty bad too. In fact, I think I had a video, because it looks disgusting. Like, if you ever seen some of these people and they don't keep their hair up, it looks pretty damn bad. Naturally straight hair looks horrible when it's not well kept. Yeah, I don't think I was gonna bring one of those videos over. Yeah, it looks so bad. I didn't know if I wanted to show it, like when they don't keep their hair up. But somehow 4C hair by default always has to be presented in its worst form, which is when it's not combed, not moisturized, not, well maintained. Yeah, it's going to look bad, just like anybody else's hair that's not maintained. Because at this point, we're just talking about grooming. We're talking about hygiene. As long as those things are done right, then it's going to look good. But anyway, let's go.
For the guys, I think it's very, very present, but it's not talked about much. So when like the black guys in the community are fighting to get like waves, like fighting with that brush and that.
Okay, now that's an interesting point that she made about the waves, right? Now, we've all had that point. I haven't been trying to get waves since I was in grammar school, I believe. Yeah, that was a thing when we had the Dax and the Murrays and the sporting wave. Yeah, that heavy, thick pomade and all that stuff. Yeah, we went through those phases. I think that's more of a young guy thing. I haven't noticed a lot of older guys that are doing that. We normally just let our hair grow in its natural texture. Unless, some of us may have a natural little wavy pattern. So if you just brush your hair, you might see a natural little wavy. I mean, even, 4C hair, it does kind of it'll give you still a normal wave pattern anyway. But if you try to grease it down, which again, I haven't done since I was in grammar school, back then, yeah, you would try to bring the waves out, even though your hair may be a natural pattern anyway. But that doesn't mean that we still don't like our natural hair, our 4C hair. Some of us would vacillate between both. You might wear your waves and then sometimes you'd be like, no, I'm just going to rock the natural. It doesn't matter. But what they're doing is, just because you have a range of things you like, they think it's a contradiction. Just because I might like to wear waves one day and I wear my natural hair, then somehow, it's some type of conflict when it's not. We don't really deviate much between what we like. But again, this is one of these, ridiculous talking points that, just like they're trying to say, just because a man might be with a woman who wears a wig, that doesn't mean he prefers natural hair. It's the same type of flawed logic. Well, let's go.
Blacks to get them waves. It's because there are other things going on. Like, I think people are honest, man. There's a look that they want, and I think that a lot of black men in the black.
No, is it a look that the men want, or is it a look that the women want? Because even when I was coming up and we were wearing our little jerry curls, there was a saying, it was called curls for the girls. So a lot of us was getting those hairstyles because that's what the girls like. See, they don't want to talk about that. In fact, I remember I got my first little girlfriend when I had my damn jerry curl. So a lot of us, we wouldn't have even probably had a curl if it wasn't for the fact that that's what the girls wanted when we were kids back then. Yeah. And just like waves, I remember when I started, wearing, like she's talking about, like the Dax and the Sporting Wave and the Murrays and all that. Y'all know what it is, those very thick ass pomades. I used to kind of get slick, and I used to try to heat it up a little bit, make it a little soft, and then put the do-rag on. But anyway, I did that because that's what the females liked back then as well. They wanted to see the little waves in your head. And then what Shadow say, that was D. D said wave since I was 11, I think. Yeah, that's a young boy thing. When we were young. He said, yeah, pomade. Yeah, that's pretty much something that I've not seen a lot of older guys do. He said, we don't need it really. Yeah, you really don't. You can get some Royal Crown grease and just brush it, and you'll still get away. Because like I said, 4C hair is actually, when you brush it out, it still has like its own, it's coiled, so it's going to create a wave pattern if you brush it out anyway. But the Dax and the pomades and all that was just to kind of keep it in place. Because obviously, if you brush it down, it's going to coil back up. So you was using the pomade to keep it laid down. It would still try to curl up, and that's what gave you the wave pattern. And what did he say? He said, I brush my hair in the shower. Yeah. So again, that just shows good hygiene, right? When you brushing your hair, just like me. I make sure that when I'm taking a shower and everything, I got the right conditioners. I'm cleaning not only my scalp, but my beard, and, using the beard treatments and all of that, right? Because you want it looking fresh. But so we take better care as men of our 4C hair than they do. And that's a damn shame. But let's go.
Community have insecurities as well that people don't talk about, funnily enough. We do focus on women and sensitivities around hair with black women. We don't really talk about it with the blokes. It is a thing with the guys, though.
Because you don't have to talk about it with the blokes, because we don't have these type of insecurities. We are okay wearing our 4C hair. That's the reason why we don't talk about it as much, because you guys are the walking poster children for self-hate and to try to eradicate Negroid features. It's you. That's why we don't have to talk about the blokes.
It's definitely a thing with the guys going on. Like, guys didn't used to do the curly pan thing as well. Like, yeah, that's the thing.
Lady, that was in the 60s. What is she talking about? And in her thumbnail to this video, she had a picture of Little Richard with a freaking perm in his head. I'm like, we haven't wore our hair like that except for Young Jock or some damn body. Black men have not worn those type of hairstyles since the freaking 50s and 60s. We got rid of that a long time ago. In fact, it was black men who ushered in the afros back during the Black Power movement with the Black Panthers and all these different groups. It was the black men who had the black women wearing the fros back then. So how do they explain that? Since we hate 4C hair so much, why did we create whole movements for black people to wear their natural hair? See, when you ask these type of historic questions, they cannot answer them. Just like, how do you explain all these billions of black people that have been born before, there was even a such thing as a relaxer? If black men were not attracted to black women with natural hair, how do you explain a whole continent called Africa where there's a lot of women there that have no problem getting impregnated wearing natural hair, because a lot of those African women, see, we're used to seeing the ones that have been more westernized, but if you go out in the bush, you see some of these women, those women out in the bush, they're still wearing a bush, right? They still got their natural hair. And meanwhile, Africa is the most populated in terms of birth rates than it damn near anywhere on the planet. I think it's number one in terms of population increases. Meanwhile, all these straight-haired, blonde countries, since blonde straight hair is such a great thing, their birth rates are going in the toilet. They're not even multiplying. So just in about 100 years, you're not even going to probably see people with those traits. Everybody's going to have either a kink or some type of curl in their hair if the birth rates continue as they are. But anyway, let's get it.
That natural hair thing is BS. They just say that as an excuse. Says what? What do people say as an excuse? In the US, men go to the islands to get their pieces wigs made. Really? Really? There's a huge YouTube community for guys wearing hair pieces. I've actually seen some of those lace fronts.
Well, again, see, we already addressed this earlier. There's a big difference between wearing hair pieces that look like your natural hair, that fit into your natural pattern of hair, than wearing a whole nother texture from a whole other race, from a whole nother ethnicity. If you don't like the word race, right? Well, let's just say from a whole different ethnicity that doesn't phenotypically fit you at all. And again, once black men decide that they're going to use these augmentations as far as their hairs, or even with the press-on beards or whatever, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it's going to look like their natural texture. Well, let's go.
I've seen some of the latest ones. It's mad what they can do now. I've seen the ones where it's this woman that does it for the guys, and like they'll be bald, but she'll like put glue on their head, and then like she can put like this braided thing on their head. It's actually mad. I've seen them do the skin fade and everything with the lace front. Fascinating.
You love your woman natural.
Stop it, Paul.
A collective of us like our women natural.
Do you like the woman natural?
Oh, yeah.
Would you prefer the bussy or the natural hair? Don't lie.
I don't mind either or, innit?
But which one's your like, who are you moving to in a party?
I don't know if she's talking about, maybe it's just that heavy British accent, but she said something about a bossy. I've never heard of that. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but let's get it.
You're at a one-way party. Who are you moving to? A bussy 40 or natural hair?
If the natural hair...
A bussy 40, I don't know what that is, but anyway.
It's like a bussy 40 then.
Nah, it's not looking like a bussy 40. It's looking like a bussy 16, 12.
Okay, I don't know what that means, but the impression...
Yeah, even she don't know what it means, and she's from over there, but anyway.
I'm getting is she's referring to like stereotypes. What I find funny though is that the dude said, yeah, if the hair's looking like a whatever she said, which I imagine is in reference to like a straight wig, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong. He said if it looks like that, then yeah, so this is the point. This is literally the point. Dude said they love natural all the time. Come on, man. A lot of guys like straight hair in the community. A lot of guys like that straight hair.
See, here we go. That's a projection. She talking about how many guys like what in the community, when in fact the community doesn't have a say-so, because these women have saturated the market with straight hair. That no one asked a man in the community whether or not he likes what he likes. They just decided to throw these damn wigs on the hair. In fact, I'm older than a lot of you guys. I remember when the weaves first came out, when it first became a thing. They used to get clowned for that. In fact, it was weird that weaves even took off the way they did. And they only took off because black women started accepting it, because it was a shameful thing. I don't know if some of you guys remember, but when it first became known that women were wearing weaves like that, it was a shameful thing. And they used to try to hide it. It was shameful. It wasn't something that men preferred. Men wanted natural. See, we thought that even though they were straightening it, we were like, okay, well, it may still be their actual hair. But once we knew it was a wig or a weave, then they used to get clowned for that. But they don't want to talk about that, though. So let's go.
Straight. Look at he had that. That's mad. Or you... Was it 2 weeks? No way. Ain't no way. For me, it's more about the aesthetics than the fake part. Not all fake hair looks good. That's true.
Yeah, D. So you said what year? Okay, the year I remember that I first heard about weaves was in about 1989, 88. I'm not saying that's when they first came out because it probably was before that, but when I remember they were still being clowned in the late 80s. So if we heard about a woman or a girl at that time, because I was still a kid, but if we heard about somebody wearing something like that in the 80s, even in the 90s, yeah, even in the 90s, if you heard about some woman wearing a wig or a weave, she was getting clowned. Yeah, that was in the late 80s and the 90s. And, it wasn't probably into the 2000s that the women had saturated the market so bad that they started clowning each other for not wearing wigs and weaves. Then it flipped. Right around the same time that they started becoming the 304s and the thoughts and all that, when it started really getting out of control. Because, they were always that, in certain pockets. But before it just became the 304 culture, around the turn of the millennia, as I remember. Yeah, that's around this, because then the whole culture took over, stripper culture took over, because it was like the strippers that were doing that. And then, up in the clubs and stuff, those were the ones. And then, how the stripper culture kind of came outside and permeated the community, that's kind of what happened. So it kind of spread, and that's when the weaves became the weaves became popular right around the same time 304 culture became popular. Those things went hand in hand. But let's go.
Not all fake hair looks good at all. My gosh. But when I say vote with their feet, when I say like the men in the community vote with their feet, actually, how many of your Black male counterparts have you seen go for the natural aesthetic? That's the question. So hardly any makeup, like no.
Wait a minute. So how are they supposed to go for the natural aesthetic when no woman is wearing it? See, again, that's just like the point I made earlier. If the market is saturated with one thing and that's the only thing that's available, he's going to take that, because after all, he wants him a woman. So he'll say, even though that ain't his preference, he'll deal with it. But again, why don't you women put it to the test? Instead of 90% of you wearing wigs and weaves and makeup and all this stuff, why don't at least you come to an agreement? You say, okay, you draw straws or whatever the hell you got to do, and decide, okay, you 50%, you're going to start wearing your normal hair. Those of you over there, you get to still wear your wigs and weaves and see what happens. But they're too scared to do an experiment like that, because they'll have to stop wearing them wigs for 5 minutes to find out what men actually like. But she'll say, well, how many do you see with it? Well, you're not going to see that many men who are with women in the Western world wearing natural hair, because that's not what the women are wearing mostly. But you have videos of women who are wearing natural hair who say that they don't even, they still get men looking at them. They still get attention from men. So it's very interesting that they always dismiss the evidence that we do have, that when they do decide to wear natural hair. And again, I'm going to show you guys some examples a little bit later before we wrap up, of women who have their natural hair. Now, I want you guys to tell me whether or not you think they're attractive. But let's go.
No makeup, no plastering, none of all that, and then like natural hair in any form. How often have you seen that? That's what I would love to know.
Well, the question is, how often do you wear it? That's the real question. Yeah, let's go.
Do tell me. I'm genuinely curious.
A bussy 40. It's looking like a bussy 1612.
It's the person behind.
Mm-hmm.
You get me?
Why are you lying?
The funny thing about all these influencers, I just laugh. Because I feel like what you were saying a minute ago in terms of the secondary school, all these things, you can set that.
Oh, okay, sure. What natural looks good then? So this is we're going into different territory here. What natural looks good? So what is a good looking natural?
what you were saying a minute ago in terms of the secondary school, what did he say? You can set that trend. This is your chance. Do it.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell everybody something. I'm not no advocate for what, like, I'm just saying what I do for myself. I don't want to be no style of natural hair. It's not me. Someone else can start the trend, and I hope that people follow. But to start the trend, it's not going to be me.
They only like natural hair if the person accidentally looks good naturally. If they don't look good naturally, there is no advantage to being natural. So what are you saying? Do you mean like their face? So if their face is nice, then natural hair looks good? Is that what you mean? If they're pretty, if they're an attractive looking person in general in the face, then their natural hair naturally looks nice. And if they're not so attractive.
Now you heard what that the other woman said, right? She wasn't even willing to change her hair. She was like, well, I hope someone starts the trend, but it won't be her. Okay. So that's your issue right there. It's not about whether or not the men prefer it. That woman, the one that was talking before, clearly said that she does not want to wear her hair natural because she has a problem with her hair. That's the issue. See, what they're doing, once again, is projecting their own insecurities, or as she would say, insecurity. They're doing that, and then they're making it seem as though that's not what the men want, when they have not even presented that to the market. That's what's so ridiculous about this whole thing. Well, let's go.
In the face, in the eyes of whoever the guy is, then natural hair doesn't look good. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, if they're pretty naturally, then natural is amazing. If they're okay, then being natural doesn't matter. So in that regard, if you think that being pretty in the face makes natural hair look nice because the woman's pretty in the face already, as opposed to her not necessarily being attractive, and therefore because of that, her wearing natural hair doesn't look.
But this commenter, what's his name? Shot the guy in her chat. He said if they are pretty naturally, natural is amazing. If they are ugly naturally, them being natural doesn't matter. Well, again, that just goes across the board. You know, if a man finds a woman attractive, her hair texture doesn't have as much emphasis. I mean, he's not going to emphasize that much. That's to my earlier point. If he likes the woman, even though he might prefer natural hair, if that's the only thing she's presenting, he'll say, okay, well, you know, of the 5 things that I want, one of them is natural hair, but she has 4 of the other characteristics. You know, she has a nice body, she has a nice personality. So therefore, I'm going to overlook the fact that she's wearing a lace front. So that's how men calculate things, right? Women, on the other hand, she might want only the things that are on her list. He got to be a certain height. He got to have a certain amount of money. Okay, fine. So she's not willing to take any bricks away from that wall. She doesn't want to compromise. And that's why, you know, unfortunately for them, they don't find what they're looking for until their eggs have dried up. And then they got powdered eggs trying to worry about being somebody's wife. It's ridiculous. But that's the issue. If a woman's naturally attractive, we don't put that much emphasis on her hair texture as much as they think we do. Even though we might have a preference, we'll overlook it. We'll say, okay, yeah, I do prefer a certain texture of hair, but, you know, I'll accept her because she has all these other characteristics. And that's the nuance that they don't seem to be able to understand. But let's go.
Good to a guy. What then would you say to guys that keep saying, I like natural hair, I prefer natural then? And do you think that for people like this, for example, that like to wear hair that's not theirs, that their false hair beautifies them? Is that something you think happens? Because if so, that would be a reason why many women don't wear their natural hair, because they think their hair texture doesn't suit them, unfortunately. Women can have a pretty face but have ugly hair in that case. Her natural ugly hair is no advantage. So what is ugly hair then? That's the other question. What do you deem to be ugly hair?
Okay.
I already answered that earlier. Ugly hair is not by default 4C hair. Ugly hair is unkept hair. ugly hair of any race, whether it's straight or 3C or whatever, if it's not well kept, well maintained, then it's going to be ugly. Bamify Bama in the building. Checking in with the squad. Salute, bro. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what texture the hair is. If it to what's going to be considered ugly is if it's not well groomed, if it's not well maintained. It's not by virtue of it being 4C does not make it ugly. And for people who frame it like that, just like with this whole thing about good hair, bad hair. So if you're saying that good hair is more, loosely coiled hair, then by default you're saying that bad hair is 4C hair, which is a ridiculous notion because, again, if you keep your hair in good shape, whether it's 4C or whatever, you're going to have good looking hair. I don't think anybody would see a very well kept, good looking afro and say that that's some ugly hair. Have you ever seen somebody with their afro laid right or any other 4C style? They always look good if it's done right. And that goes for any texture. So that's what's so ridiculous about this whole thing. But let's go.
But Lyle, what I'm trying to say is look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
I'm not trying to get onto you because I don't know your audience. They could start trying to bash me now. I want to bring all of us back to our roots. The hair, yeah, it's raw hair, but it's not your hair. Let's be real. It's not our hair.
He's hiding his lack of great hair by shaving it off. Okay. Her fake hair looks.
So, D, the silk press, is that straight? So you like the straight hair? Locks, okay. Yeah, I think black women look very good with locks. It looks natural too.
It's great, except for the laid part, okay? A lot of it is male related, so it's what they think guys like, from what I've seen. And if that's what guys are choosing, then girls will keep doing it. Girls will definitely keep doing it.
Again, what comes first? Is it they're choosing it because that's all they got, or is the women doing it because that's what they're choosing? I would argue the guys are choosing it because that's the only thing available to them.
I personally don't enjoy being plastered. The only time I will do like makeup like that is for some big occasion. Like it would have to be like I don't know, maybe I'm a bridesmaid or something like that. But generally speaking, I can't bother to do all of that. It's just not my thing. People can say it's not for guys. I don't believe that. I do think that when people transform how they look, it's because they're trying to attract.
You know what, Shadow? I like those too. I like what Dee was saying too about the pixie. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, those are some good styles. And you know what's so unique about the Afro puffs and all those? Those do look good on them, and that's a very unique style that only they can do. I've actually seen other races of women try to rock those, and it doesn't look right. Just like they've been trying to rock the Bantu knots. You notice that became a popular style. I guess one white woman wore some Bantu knots, and then it became all the rage. But black women only been doing it for thousands of years. But anyway, yeah, some of those styles are very good looking and they're very artistic. Because if you go back, I was actually going to play a video about this where it showed like some of the hairstyles over the hundreds, if not thousands of years, where black women had all these creative, types of hairstyles since back in Nubian time and Egyptian time. And some of those hairstyles were was art. They used to treat it like art. Instead of covering it up and killing off the circulation to their hair, they used to actually celebrate it, and it was an art form. And that's why they came out with the Tignon laws. I think some of you guys know about that. You're some pretty educated guys, where they outlawed black women wearing their hair, and they had to cover it up, kind of like what she's doing with the little Aunt Jemima do-rag on. Shout out to her. I'm not saying she's Aunt Jemima, but they would make them wear that because they didn't allow them to do all that artistic stuff with their hair, with their natural hair. And meanwhile, I guess it just kind of programmed them to the point where they still want to cover up their hair. But it's pretty interesting. But let's go.
someone most of the time. And that's why I say guys vote with their feet. So guys can say they don't like certain things, but a lot of the time, a guy will get with a girl that's plastered. It's just what happens, isn't it? When I was growing up, like, well, in school.
When America plastered has a whole different meaning. It means drunk. So I guess she's using it to mean using, wearing a lot of makeup. But anyway, I guess I have to translate sometimes. But anyway, let's go.
Maybe it's because of school anyway and people were too young, but girls within the community weren't doing all that stuff. That whole contouring mad stuff, I think, is more of a Kim K influence that then leaked in, and then people are.
And that's another thing. So they let Kim K and women like her basically take their styles, repackage it, and now you're imitating her, who's turning around imitating you. Very weird how these women are, but let's go.
Oh, wait, I can look like a completely different person. Let me. I think some of that stuff is scripted to make black men look as bad as possible, or we are just bad. I mean, see, that's an honest perspective. That's the type of thing that I think needs to be discussed, because at the end of the day, like I've said before, there's fake confidence in the black community. Like, people always act like they're overly confident in blackness and stuff, and I don't believe it. I just think there's a lot of insecurities, a huge amount of insecurities, and people vote with their feet. So if women are like completely switching up their face and changing their face and looking like someone else, and featureism isn't an issue, but people are contouring to change how their features look, and then guys are liking that, then that means that, the dudes are voting with their feet. People, like, if put it this way, yeah, if men weren't attracted to this new.
Indeed, that's a whole. Yeah, I like what Shadow Zulu said too, though. With the Afro Puffs, indeed, to your point, that they hate the fact that they are black, those that are. Yeah, I mean, but again, this all comes from propaganda. See, they've, unlike us, who've embraced our natural features, some of them have bought into the whole narrative of the society, right? They don't have any sense of history. They don't realize that in antiquity and other large parts of history and parts of the world, that black beauty was the standard. Even the ancient Greeks said that the Africans were the most beautiful people on the planet, and all these other. And that's why if you look at some of the Hellenistic art from the Greeks, they made it black, and all these other cultures, they would always celebrate black features. That's why Buddha has nappy hair. The Asian deity. Some of you guys may have not noticed that since I said it. If you look at any statues of that Asian deity, they always got what looks like an afro or some type of knotty hair, right? Where do you think they got that from? That's supposed to be an Asian deity, but how come you don't have straight hair? Go, if you don't believe me, look up a picture and you'll see for yourself. But black features have always been the standard until you came to the European rule. And these women have bought into that hook, line, and sinker. But let's go.
Way of transforming your face. Like now, if men weren't attracted to that, women wouldn't do it unless they weren't into men. Literally, they wouldn't do it. If a lot of women didn't like the whole, bad man thing, then a lot of guys wouldn't be on the whole Batman thing, because.
Now, what does she mean by the whole Batman thing? Is she, as far as I know, I'm the only one making that correlation. So am I creating another trend over here? Is people biting my style more? Is that, what do you guys know about that? She said something about a Batman thing. Is anybody else out here drawing correlations like me? Let me see. I don't know if you guys caught that.
If men weren't attracted to this new way of transforming your face, like now, if men weren't attracted to that, women wouldn't do it unless they weren't into men.
No, again, they're doing it irrespective as to whether or not the men like it. Because again, you can go back in parts of history where women did not do that, and there were still men being attracted to them. In fact, most of us, if not all of us, would not be here if that wasn't true in terms of men being attracted to women without all these chemical additives that they decide to do these days.
Literally, they wouldn't do it if a lot of women didn't like the whole, you know, bad man thing.
Okay, so y'all see, okay, so she had bad men. Okay, yeah, you know, sometimes I could decipher her accent, but that time, you know, maybe I was projecting right then, guys. So you could dismiss that. That was me. Yeah, I think you're right, D. Yeah, I think I was projecting. So yeah, okay. So I can accept when I'm off. So okay, it doesn't happen often, but yeah, I can accept it. Anyway, let's go.
Then a lot of guys wouldn't be on the whole Batman thing because they wouldn't get girls. Like, it's just, people vote with their feet, man. People vote with their feet all the time. Oh boy, not the great wig debate. Listen, you know, it's one of those sensitive.
Yep, that's right. Shadow Zulu, Cambodia, Angkor Wat, natural African curly hair on their statues. Yeah, how do you explain that? You only explain that if black was the standard. You look at some of those Indian deities. They are dark. Black for thousands of years was the standard. It wasn't until the advent, which is relatively recently in world history, that the world shifted to a more Eurocentric standard. And if women had a higher amount of knowledge to historically what has been a beauty standard, then they would have created their own standard that was more in line with that, which is more in line with who they are naturally. But instead, they bent over backwards and acquiesced to a standard that actually harms them, to the point where they're putting in chemicals not only in their hair but in their skin in the form of bleaching and all that stuff. So that not to mention the monetary aspect of this, where they're paying to basically poison themselves. But that's a subject for another video. But let's go.
Topics had to be discussed, though. We always discuss that controversial stuff.
They're getting jobs over someone that has like more Caucasian type hair than a black guy that comes in with dreadlocks embracing his hair.
No.
You cannot tell me that. Don't do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but with dreadlocks and a guy, it's different from, because the dreadlocks is his hair.
So it's the 4C hair.
No, but I'm saying if a girl comes with a weave and a wig, that's not her hair. Whereas
but what I'm saying is they prefer the look of the white lady than the black lady.
On a black lady.
Yes.
Derek Jackson.
100%.
Derek Jackson? What does that Negro got to do with anything? But anyway.
To what extent?
Oh, yeah, I remember. What she was saying was because I guess he got busted with some women that were wearing wigs, even though his wife, I think, wore her natural hair. So you're going to use this degenerate Derek Jackson as a standard, when in fact, is like what we said earlier, just because a man might have a preference for his wife or for the woman he's with, but he's creeping around with a woman who don't fit that doesn't change the fact that he wants to marry a woman of a certain look. Men operate on a different level than women. A man will have a preference that he wants to marry and have children with, but he will bust down a woman that looks nothing like that. They can't seem to get that through their thick head that that's how men operate. But anyway.
Well, all I'm saying is you can't.
See, I don't agree with that statement that they prefer white hair on a black lady than a black lady with her natural hair. I'm not sure I agree with that. I've never had any problems with work because of my natural hair, ever. It's never happened. I've gotten like a 10.
Well, then again, her natural hair, and again, I don't know if she's if that's her natural hair and that texture right there, but you know, it doesn't look like 4C. It could be, I guess she claimed earlier she didn't use any chemicals. So if that's her natural texture, then maybe they wouldn't have a problem with that. But if she came in there with an afro or, you know, or some locks or something, you know, because there have been instances, at least in the States, I don't know how it is over there in the UK, but where, and we all know the history behind that, because there was a different structure you had actual slave codes in America that prohibited certain things, and it kind of morphed into certain micro managing things on those jobs as well. So, and again, that's another subject, but because she hasn't experienced it, maybe she thinks it doesn't exist. But let's go.
I've gotten asked about it and stuff like that, but it's never been like a negative. It's never been a negative thing personally. If that has happened, like I've not seen it at all. I think at this point it's an excuse. Maybe that happened ages ago, but
no, it still happens pretty frequently. But again, maybe it's different over there. And maybe her experiences has been different because her texture is not necessarily 4C, but let's go.
Don't see it happening now. I've met loads of Black women in the corporate world who do the natural hair, and I love to see it. It makes me happy. You get me? It's like, yeah, okay, natural hair, great. But it's never been, from my experience, an issue in the corporate world anyway. Maybe in other industries, I don't know, but I've never seen it. Yeah, I've not seen it. I'm not seeing that the natural hair thing be an issue in the work world. Pretty women will get ahead no matter their hairstyle. Naomi Campbell has no edges left, but ain't she beautiful though? My gosh, that woman is pretty.
You're talking about Naomi Campbell. Naomi Campbell may look nice on the outside, but from what I hear, she's a bitch. So that's another thing women don't understand, is that as men, those of us men of honor and men of value, a woman's looks will only get her so far if she doesn't have the right spirit, the right personality. So they think, and that's another thing they overemphasize, not just your particular desire for certain hair textures, but they also try to make it seem as though just because a woman's beautiful, that's going to give her a pass. For men, unless he's a simp, and I think a lot of these women got these batteries in their back from simps, because a lot of us who have values, who've been with beautiful women, who, don't put women on the pedestals, we still like good-looking women, of course, but if she's a bitch, then we ain't going to tolerate that, and she can get kicked to the curb just like any of them. So that's the part they miss. But let's go.
Jamaica produces them, man. I'm telling you. She's a pretty woman, man. She's gorgeous.
100%.
To what extent, though?
Well, all I'm saying is, you can't talk and tell me to wear my 4C hair when you're coming in suited and booted.
I don't.
You see how ridiculous that is? I mean, these women will stop at nothing not to wear their own freaking hair. She's literally just told this guy that he can't tell her to wear her natural hair because he's suited and booted. I'm like, whoa. What do you mean he can't dress a certain way, but he does not naturally produce a suit on his body? You don't want to grow something that's naturally coming from your body. That's a big difference between him wearing a suit, which is a fashion thing, as opposed to you wearing your own freaking hair. You see the conflation? This is ridiculous. Let me go back to that part. Hold on. I hate when I do that. I kind of got knocked down. Go back to where we were.
What then would you say to that? It's just not my thing. People can say it, but they wouldn't do it. I'm not sure I agree with that. It's never been a negative. I've met loads of women from that woman is, man, it's a sensitive issue.
All I'm saying is, you can't talk and tell me to wear my 4C hair when you're coming in suited and booted.
I don't
come in your African attire, and then we do this conversation. And I'll.
I guess he got to come in there with a kente cloth and a spear before he can tell her to wear her own freaking hair. That is so ridiculous. It's like DC is psychosis, yeah. And Shadow says both of these females are clueless. I don't think they even believe in what they are saying. They just want to be right. They know black men prefer natural hair. Yeah. He said mass psychosis. Yeah, but could you imagine the mental gymnastics that you have to do to leap from someone telling you to wear your natural hair, and you're gonna tell him, well, he can't say nothing until he wears an African suit, and if she can't see the ridiculous false comparison that is, and there's no help in that.
Take off the wig.
On this side of the fence, in the community, no one's honest.
Community.
No one's honest about hair. No one's gonna say how they really feel about hair. Come on, man. It's a sensitive issue for men and women.
I don't think it's as sensitive for men as it is for women. Again, that's another projection. We don't have that big of a problem. It's really not that deep on our end of the pool. It really ain't. Over there, you got all kind of stuff going on. Those issues are with them, but they really like to project, don't they?
Both genders, it is an issue. Like, that's not.
Yeah, Shadow. See, again, for her to even try to say that shows a horrible logic. And it just speaks to the larger issue, because that woman is not alone. I mean, she there's plenty of them that think like that. It's ridiculous.
Let's not pretend. It is. There's this whole thing of people looking, or kids being perceived to look unkempt if their hair's not a certain way. If they're
right, exactly. That's the point. When all you got to do is take care of that kid's hair as well as their hair. You teach them how to take care of their hair, and whether it's 4C or what, then they're going to look neat. Just like when I was a kid, my mom made sure that my hair was combed when I went to school, clean or what have you. And I remember there was times that I was wearing a little mini fro. And there were times I had it cut, but it was always clean and well kept. And there were other kids like that too. So to me, that's where it comes down to. They're conflating just good hygiene and good grooming or they're conflating bad grooming with 4C hair when those two things are not synonymous. You just have to make sure that no matter what your texture hair is, that it's well kept. That's the issue.
Hair's not sleek, or if it's not straight, or sleek and straight. If it is natural, then it needs to be sleeked. Like, there's all these different layers to it, and it does affect how people grow up.
See, that's the thing, D. They're making a mountain out of a molehill, and that's why I like pointing this stuff out, because we see where the problem emanates from. It's them. We don't, like I said earlier, it's not that deep with us. I'm pointing this out to show that the difference, because we don't have these type of issues that they think we have with their hair. Because like I said, the moment they get enough courage to en masse, or at least 50% of them start wearing their natural hair, then what they're going to notice is it's not going to be really a difference in terms of the men. It might be some initial shock, like, damn, you look like a whole different person. But after about a week or two, oh, it's back to business as usual. In fact, I would have surmised that a lot of them will probably get more play looking like their natural selves, to be honest, because they all look freaking the same now as it is. Because at least with their natural hair, they can all play with their own unique styles. But now they all walking around with the same type of hair pieces, or the same type of lace fronts. It's crazy. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for her. She made some other little points, but I think we pretty much dissected it pretty well. I wanted to get into some things before we wrap up, guys, just to show you some examples of natural hair. Give you guys a little eye candy as well. And you tell me, do you think these women look bad wearing natural hair? So just a few examples.
Black woman who came from a black woman who came from a black woman, and I'm gonna give birth to a black woman. We're impeccable. We are impeccable.
So I'm sure D appreciates that when I play it back for him. But look at that. Now, do you think that's unattractive just because she's got 4C hair? Looks attractive to me.
I come from a black woman who came from a black woman who came from a...
So you see that the hair looks well kept, looks clean. So what's the problem?
Black woman, and I'm gonna give birth to a black woman. We're impeccable. We are impeccable.
Yeah, so we don't have a problem with that. See, again, like we said earlier, it ain't that deep. You know, if she's attractive. Yeah, they always got to put all that makeup on, but, you know, just focusing on the hair. And like Shadow says, as long as they keep it neat, I like it. Yeah. I'll give you another example. See, she wearing her little fro, having fun, you know. He said, I don't like the deity thing. He said, the worship me energy. Oh, yeah. That comes from any of them, right? It ain't just the ones that be on that chakra, you know, that Queen Mother Goddess stuff. You know, the ones with the weave want that too. You know, that's just that mindset, right? We ain't talking about that. Oh, let me show you guys this one as well. See, this is an example of one who is going to wear a wig, but she's going to wear a wig that looks like her natural hair. So what do you guys think about this? I'm going to play this real quick.
I can slap it on my head and just leave my house. Lately, I've been really into like natural textured wigs. So this, I'm excited. Whoa, Nelly. This is a lot. Wow, look at the difference. Do you see the difference?
No, so she's wearing a wig, but which one looks more natural? If she was walking around outside like that, wouldn't you be more apt to believe that this is her natural hair? Yeah, and even he said she was decent before. Yeah, even if she wear it low. Some guys may not like that, but, you know, if she's rocking this, even though it's a wig, it still looks a lot more natural, right, than a platinum blonde straight lace front. So which would you prefer? To be walking down the street with her or going out somewhere than the one that we played earlier that was the platinum blonde with about a pound of makeup on?
Okay, I like it. I like it. See, quick, easy. She's practically good to go, man. I love.
Now, don't that look way better than a lot of them wigs they be wearing? I'm just saying. And Bama Phi Bama, he says nope. So Bama Phi Bama, is it the fact that it's a wig or is it a fact that it's 4C? What part don't you like? Is it Nigerian? I don't know. She might be. It's hard to tell. My darling, I know you know. But yeah, so it just depends on what you like, you know. But for me, you know, I think that's a lot more attractive than them walking around with those damn straight lace fronts that don't even match them. He said, I don't like it. I don't like her shirt. See, leave it to D. He gonna point out something. But no, I was wanting you to focus on her hair. That's what I was looking at. But anyway, you know what? I meant to get with this too. We're gonna show where this kind of came from. Oh, here's a woman right here. And this is not a wig. This is her natural hair. She just doing it.
For a wash and go on my 4C hair.
So she's just showing how she washes it. And then Bama Phi Bama says, I love nappy hair. I don't like anything fake. Okay. So I see it. So it wasn't the fact that it was 4C texture. You just didn't like the wig. I got you. And then D was talking about, he said her shirt had Nigeria on it. Oh, okay. Well, maybe she was just wearing it. But anyway, this is an attractive woman, but she's just showing how she keeps her own hair, which is what more of these women need to do.
I'm only going to be using 2 products. I'm using the Dews Mousse Def, and then I'm also using the Camille Rose Curl Maker. I'm going to split this section like this. A lot of the curl definition is going to come from this mousse. So what I do is I completely saturate this section. This mousse works really well for my hair type. This is the important part. I'm going to take my gel, that much, and I start at the roots.
But you see, look, a lot of them, I think it was you earlier, D, you said a lot of them are lazy, but I'm showing you here when they actually take the time to do their hair, instead of putting all that time, money, and energy into those wigs and weaves, this is what they need to be doing more of. So when they watch this playback, they're going to see how they need to be treating their hair.
And I work the gel through the top layer of my hair. If you want a lot of definition, don't separate the section. Once I dry my hair, the mousse is going to set my curls because I left my hair like this. I'm just gonna do the top. Okay, so this is the dried result. I really love doing this combo because I always get the fluffiest results. This is the final look.
Yeah, but you know what's so crazy is that instead of them just doing what she just did, which that took all of about a minute, they were to be sitting on somebody's blow dryer for 5 hours. I mean, it's crazy. Being unproductive as hell. But this is where it all came from. You know, they like to celebrate, you know, black women in history who've done certain things like Madam C.J. Walker, but, you know, she became a millionaire selling products that destroy their natural features. Essentially, this lady here.
When Madam Walker started her company in 1906, there were very few women who...
Yeah, and that's what looks to be like an exotical, you know, Dee's favorite type right there, talking about, it's kind of appropriate that she's a narrator of this story about Madam C.J. Walker, but let's get it.
Were in business. She and Helena Rubinstein and Elizabeth Arden were women who were all in the same boat. They were trying to develop an industry. People didn't even take them seriously. She traveled door to door, town to town, teaching individuals in churches and in people's parlors and where.
I knew Dee was going to say something about her. I think that's why we chose this clip, because there's many clips about Madam C.J. Walker, but I wanted to make sure we had an exotical talking. I'm sure Dee was going to point this out, but anyway.
Wherever she could. And she could see that ultimately it really wasn't as much about the hair care product, though that was important in an era when women didn't have access to those products, but it also was very much about empowering women and about helping women become economically independent. So the more she trained women and the more she...
So not only did Madam C.J. Walker bring you the 4C destruction chemicals or whatever she was using, but she also, you know, created a whole legion of the strong independent women. So I guess we got a twofer out of her, but let's go.
Taught them to train other women. She was developing a national and really international network of women.
Dee, why do you have all these so-called relatives? You had a so-called sister or so-called mother, you know, but it's an interesting choice of words there, Dee.
Who were Walker agents. Those women could see not only were they able to transform themselves, but they also were able to make money that they could contribute to their churches, to pay tuition for their children to go to.
Oh, that's cool. Your grandfather's still alive? I wish one of my grandfathers was, I wish both of my grandfathers were still alive. Okay, I feel you, Dee. I understand.
School to buy homes, and this then became really the goal. When I look at her life, I think it's fabulous that she became a millionaire. Stunning.
Yeah, but you know, what was the lasting impact? You know, it created a whole industry of women destroying their natural hair and features. So again, I'm not hating on Madam C.J. Walker. I think that, you know, from a business standpoint, you know, there's a lot of good things you could say about her, but let's not act as though there was not a psychological damage that was done that lasted up to this very moment with these women, and how they have bought into this idea that they can't just be themselves and be beautiful, and they have to use all these chemicals and all of that. So I think that was one of the legacies of Madam C.J. Walker that they don't want to talk about. Well, let's go.
She became a millionaire. But for me, the more lasting legacy is that she empowered people and that she used her money to make a difference in her community and to show other people their ability to make a difference in their communities.
Yeah. So, that's where all that stuff comes from. It's really unfortunate. But yeah, so guys, I appreciate you for showing up and showing out. Salute to everybody that was in the building, everybody that participated. I think we definitely did another fire broadcast as per usual, and we will keep it going. Yeah, so again, it wasn't anything personal against this young lady. I just felt as though she was way off base, and due to probably her age, she doesn't realize that a lot of this has already been addressed, and that unfortunately these women have very limited view and tunnel vision even, and they can't see over the course of many years that there were plenty of black men that preferred women that had natural features, natural hair, and many of us would not be here if not for that. And it's only a very relatively small percentage of men that that go exclusively to the non-black phenotype. A lot of us, there's a range. Some of us may like it women from dark to we may deal with the exotical type, even though that may not be our preference. Whereas you may have brothers like D and I believe Commando Spawn, who are extreme. They don't like anything other than non-ambiguous or unambiguous women. They don't like the mixed phenotype, which is cool. It's just preference. So they need to understand that we are a lot more sophisticated in our taste, a lot more varied, a lot more nuanced than they want to give us credit for. And hopefully this is an educational journey for them when they watch this playback, that they can learn some things. And if they have any questions, they're welcome to comment and so forth, and we'll address it. But at any rate, I'd like to thank you all for coming out once again. And we're going to end the way we always do. This is not just a broadcast. It's a squadcast. That's a very big difference. Mission complete. Over and out.